when you grow up, huh? When the hair on your back becomes longer than the hair on your head. When you're, and I can say a whole bunch of things about women, but I won't do it because then that's like politically incorrect. So I'll just make it fair. Hey, there's a military song about you. Do your bonnet hard or do it on, when those things hang low and they get a little wet in the toilet water. And you just get a little older. You wake up and you do what MX does in the morning, which is eventually you just get a little bit older, and at some point you got to decide what you're going to do with your life, okay? Me, I'm going to talk on the radio to you guys, and most of the times I go outside. Although right now it's 26 degrees here at the Vac and Strantill Studios on the campus of New Dewport West. And I just have not felt like going outside. Now, I figure out how I'm going to do this. As you guys well know, my grandmother passed. So as soon as we do the ceremony and the funeral today, then I'll come back to normal. But right now, it's like my 8th grade time. I like to go out onto Indianapolis Boulevard and, do my Mr. Rogers imitations. Tree, 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 tree. And then sometimes I like to yell at people beeping. I'm a beeper, you're a beeper, beep, beep, beep. Which is, in its own way, a Mr. Rogers type song. But I just don't feel like today, so I'm going to sit in here where it's nice and toasty. I think part of what it is, and I think it's a shared feeling right now, is that we are all tired of being cold. Laid down last night with the wife, and I'm like, all right, I got a sweatshirt on, and I'm laying there in my boxers, and I'm like, I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I'm like, I can't go to bed right now. My legs are cold. I told Alexis, I must be getting older. My legs are cold. Why are my legs cold? My legs were never cold. She's like, well, I think, you realize it's like 33 degrees outside with wind, and it's going to rain, and it's cold outside, and it just doesn't stop, and it's not stopping. The snow, we had snow this morning. What is it, April 3rd of 2018? And we had snow in certain parts around the region, and we might get a little bit of more, or a little tingle of it coming our way, and it says here, snow starting in 68 minutes. Let's mark that. So it's 5:43, so at 6:51, let's see if it starts snowing. And cold with clouds and sun today after it stops snowing. Tonight it gets down into the low 20s, partly cloudy. Cold tomorrow, high of 41, snow and rain in the afternoon. And then it just gets even colder over the weekend as you get into the teens overnight on Friday and Saturday night. Even on Sunday night, it gets into the low 20s. And so listen to the river sing sweet songs and la ha ha. So there's your weathercast, and it's brought to you by our good friends at Laborers Local 41, of which I am a proud alum. My name's Jim Diedlow. I'm the host here of the morning show on AM 1230 WJOB on 104.7 FM, the voice and face of the region. We got a couple guests this morning. Who do you think's calling me at this hour? Oh, my daughter. Let me see. I'll call you right. I'll get right back to you guys on AM 1230.
Crime in the state of Indiana. Listen up. You need legal counsel. Doesn't it make sense to call an attorney who not only knows the law, but who knows the system? I'm Nicole Bennett, a former deputy Lake County prosecutor. I do know the system and how to help you with your criminal case. From traffic tickets to cleaning up your driving record to obtaining specialized driving privileges under the new 2015 Indiana law and misdemeanor and felony charges. And as many of you have experienced, I can even have your criminal record erased. Call me at Westland and Bennett in Schererville, 219-440-7550. Again, 219-440-7550.
When you're in the dark, where do you turn to find a trusted professional who can assure the safety of your home or business electrical system? Certified Electrician is here to help. Looking for a highly skilled electrical contractor for your next construction project? CertifiedElectrician.com is where to find one. We connect you with pre-screened electrical professionals living right here in Northwest Indiana. Experts in residential, commercial, voice data video, and signage. Certified Electrician can fulfill all your electrical needs. Visit CertifiedElectrician.com.
Rush Radiosurgery deploys revolutionary technology in the fight against prostate cancer in just 5 outpatient treatments. With radiosurgery treatment for prostate cancer, there is no pain, no surgery, and you can go back to your normal activities right after treatment. Prostate cancer does not fight fair, and neither should you. For more information, contact Rush Radiosurgery at 312-942-4600 or visit us at rushradiosurgery.com.
No case is typical. Results will vary by patient, and there's no guarantee other patients will experience these results.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? AM 1230, WJOB and 104.7 FM. I'm Jim Dietlow, host of the morning show here, and I want to just tell you about a couple of things going on. We talked about weather and traffic, and you guys got all that going on. But it's hump day, middle of the week. I won't be here tomorrow, maybe not Friday, so let's enjoy ourselves, huh? On Thursday, March 29th, at approximately 6:30 p.m., officers were dispatched to a residence in the 2700 block of Strong Street in Highland. A female resident advised her that earlier a male subject she described as Hispanic, approximately 5'5" in height, and wearing gray pants and a gray jacket, knocked on her door claiming to be an employee of the town of Munster. He asked the resident to come outside and offered to do some work for her. He kept her outside for 20 minutes and then left, saying if he was not back in 2 minutes, she should just go back inside the house. The resident advised she went back inside her house. She noticed several doors were open and that other items had been rummaged through. She checked further and ultimately realized that some cash and jewelry were missing from her residence. The Highland Police Department would like to remind residents that as the warmer weather returns, that if the warmer weather returns, these types of distraction crimes become more popular. Oftentimes, unknown people will show up at a residence and claim to work for a municipality or a utility company and offer to do work or try to get the resident outside away from their house for a period of time. When that happens, all right, so yeah, my daughter rolled over on her phone. That always scares you, know? And let's see. So oftentimes, unknown people will show up at a residence and claim to work for a municipality or utility company and offer to do work and try and get the resident outside away from their house for a period of time. When that happens, another person then enters the house and steals cash and jewelry or whatever. They then depart the area quickly, and the resident often doesn't realize they've been a victim of a crime until it is too late. What a bunch of scumbags, you know what I mean? Isn't that a scumbag thing to do, don't you think? Hey, Ryan, and during the break, can you set those two guys up in here? I want to talk to them. We would like to remind our residents that if somebody comes to your door claiming to work for the town of Highland or a public utility company, those employees will be able to provide a work ID card with a picture. Also, there will be a town of Highland or utility company vehicle that will be appropriately marked as such nearby. If you have somebody come to your door that you do not believe is who they claim to be, do not open your door and call 911 immediately. An officer will be dispatched to confirm the identity of the person there and the validity of the reason that they are there for. That sucks. Listen to the river sing sweet songs. Rock my soul. All right, what else we got here going on? Huh? We got a lot of stuff, actually. But we have to start. What's up, Ryan? Yes, let's start with Jeopardy. If you guys listen to the show on Monday morning, Dan Carden called in from deep down in the heart of Indiana, in Indiana, no place. And he tells us what's going on with the state legislature. But Monday was also the day that he appeared on Jeopardy, and he won. He won $26,200, I think. It was very exciting. He was down going into the final Jeopardy round, and he beat everybody by knowing that Robert Kennedy was at one point the head of the Department of Justice. Did you know that? The other two, I think, were a little bit younger, and they didn't quite know that. I knew that, didn't you? They showed a drawing of a guy who looked kind of like Robert Kennedy, and they said, who is this guy, and what part of the cabinet of a presidency was he the head of? And it was Robert Kennedy, and he won it with the Department of Justice. Listen to the river sing sweet songs. And so he got to come back yesterday. Ryan, was it close? At the end, nobody saw it. Did anybody watch Jeopardy yesterday? Did you? Was it close? No, not really. He got third. So at least he got third. Right? Is that good in Jeopardy? These guys don't even know that at least you got third. There's only 3 people. Yeah, that's right. Ryan reminds us that he was in third on Monday, but he got the bonus question because it was political. I got that. Can you give me a pen, please? And what else is going on? So Cardin's out. And any other news around the station here? No, not really. I don't think so. So it comes to the time where we get to talk about what's going on in the world, and I don't know how this works. I don't know what's going on in the world. I really don't. I mean, I try to make sense of for you guys in the morning, a little bit of sense, and you guys are like, you make sense? What are you, nuts? And I'm like, all right, I got the idea that, I'm not the most stable person in the world. I get it, but have you guys been following this YouTube thing last night? Did you guys follow that? Is that nuts or what? You wake up in the morning and you're like, what could happen next? And you would never have guessed that someone's going to go into YouTube and start shooting over changes. It's a woman too, and she was upset with changes in Google's way of monetizing things. And well, here, I'll just tell you how it's covered by the New York Times, and they're saying this. They're saying a woman opened fire with a handgun at YouTube's headquarters in California on Tuesday afternoon, shooting 3 people, one of whom was critically injured, before killing herself. The San Bruno Police Department identified the attacker late Tuesday as Nasim Najafi Agdam, who was in her late 30s. The motivations is under investigation, although her social media postings included criticisms of YouTube. Now, Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital. That ought to tell you how powerful Facebook is in this world when you have San Francisco General is now named Zuckerberg San Francisco General. When I was at Berkeley, I went to San Francisco General once. I can't remember what it was, but I think if I tell you what it was, then it would be somewhat embarrassing to me, because when you're in college, you get these little bouts of things that you don't necessarily get when you're older. And I think I'll stop right there. But I have been to San Francisco General, and but anyways, Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital received 3 patients: a man 36 in critical condition, a woman 32. Hey, thanks for beeping. People are still beeping, and I didn't go outside today. Part of it is I have 2 of my broadcasting students here today, and I want to bring them on and whatever. At this time, there's no evidence that the shooter knew the victims or that individuals were specifically targeted. All right. Vadim Lavrusik, a YouTube employee who formerly worked for the New York Times, tweeted just before 1 p.m. that there was an active shooter at YouTube headquarters. Ms. Agdam was active. She made all sorts of videos, everywhere from vegetarian cooking to exercising. She recorded a video criticizing YouTube for taking measures that decrease the number of views on her videos. This is what they're doing to weekend activists and many other people who try to promote healthy humane, and smart living. People like me are not good for big business, like for animal business, medicine business, and for many other businesses. That's why they are discriminating and censoring us. YouTube had pulled down all of her channels as of Tuesday night. A recent story in a paper quoted a woman with the same name at an animal rights protest outside Camp Pendleton in Southern California. For me, animal rights equal human rights, she said. And the shootings on Tuesday took place in a courtyard at YouTube's offices. Those offices, like Google facilities, maintain light security with employees using badges to go through security gates. Usually the main lobby is attended by a receptionist. There are no visible metal detectors or armed guards. All right, so here's a picture of her. She looks a little bit like Chrissy Hines, perhaps in a slightly more Middle Eastern version of her. So let's talk about YouTube and Google's headquarters. I drove by YouTube headquarters, but I have been in Google's headquarters, and once I got in there, I went to a radio conference, and for some reason, they had 20 passes to go to Google. And since it was a radio conference and nobody wants to do anything that's remotely related to the 21st century, I was able to go. I actually took my daughter Jeannie with me. And one of the things that you notice about Google's headquarters was once you were in, you could go anywhere, and I thought that was odd. Thought there would be security everywhere, but it's a campus. It's the nicest campus other than Occidental College in Los Angeles that I've ever been on, where you could just walk around. It was very country clubbish. So once this woman was able to get in, I don't know how she would have got in. I mean, there was a little bit of a perimeter, but you could enter from a lot of different angles. You know, now that I think about it, you could walk into the courtyard, but you couldn't get into the buildings. So maybe the woman just parked her car, came out with her gun, and started shooting, and then then wouldn't have been able to get in the buildings. That's why it happened outside. I'm just hypothesizing at this point, which makes you wonder, now that you start talking about security, and we start thinking about security at schools, do you have to worry just about people walking into the school with guns in the school and shooting kids inside the school, or do you have to worry about shooting out in courtyards? Well, I guess you got to worry about shooting out in courtyards also. Hey, it is the 50th anniversary of the shooting death of Martin Luther King Jr. Let's see, Post-Tribune. I think this is Chicago Tribune stuff. And a half century has passed since civil rights leader, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. Hey, before I talk about this, Jimmy, could you go into WJOB's Smug Mug and download the two pictures that we have of Martin Luther King Jr. talking with a huge WJOB microphone in front of him? And it is, I don't know, I think it's out of 1967, so maybe a year before he was assassinated. And can you flash that up on the screen so these folks can see it? Anyways, Lakabarahanya. As community leaders reflect on the personal impact of King's legacy, many are left with questions about perceptions of ongoing hatred and injustice today. Black Lives Matter. Gary draws inspiration from the era of King's Poor People's Campaign, according to its co-organizer, Laurel Kilpatrick. So what does that mean? 50 years. Now, there have certainly been advances in racial relations in America since the time of Martin Luther King, but have there been enough advances? Was it marked like the vision of Martin Luther King, was that realized when Barack Obama became president? Or are we still woefully inadequate when it comes to equalization of our races? I don't know. You guys all have your own opinion on that. You also have opinions yesterday, by the way. Verley Suggs had some pretty deep opinions about Hammond Mayor Tom McDermott. And, I let her talk for a little while. McDermott had said a couple things about her, and, she certainly was waiting to retort back. But you guys got to remember something also, that at any time, my phone lines are open, and if somebody's saying something you don't like and you call in, typically I'll say, hey, let's go to the phone line. So nobody called in, and I was just kind of looking at that. I'm like, is anybody going to call in and stop her? I'm like, no, okay, well, I'm going to let her talk. So, you know what? It's not just on me to regulate everything. Ask Mark Zuckerberg. He has his own hospital now. He doesn't have to regulate anything. On Facebook, he could say, hey, people just put their stuff up, man. It ain't my fault. Let's smoke a doobie, baby. And that's what he does. Okay? But here I am, if you think I'm going to regulate everything, I kind of go toward, hey, people want to talk, let them talk. And you guys are fairly understanding of that. So if you got anything that you want to say about what Verley had to say, you guys are more than welcome to call in. Now, yesterday I was hanging out here in the Purdue Northwest Commercialization Center in the Strachan Van Til Studios, and a guy by the name of Tom Dakich showed up. I did not know the man, and his buddy, what was his name? Whitehead, I think is Jeff Whitehead, I believe. But Dakich and a guy by the name of Feldman pay no attention to the man behind the curtain in New York City, named Feldman. And they are putting in this tech hub along Lake Michigan in Hammond up on the old Commonwealth Edison plant. In kind of a weird thing, in the old days, Illinois basically ran out of room on the lakefront, so they put the power plant in Indiana on the Indiana side, and then it got too old. I worked in that power plant. I had been in that as a kid. It's one of the coolest places I've ever been into. Well, it's not there anymore. It's a big flat piece of land. And our own Rick Kubik went out there recently and just took a stroll and did a Facebook Live video of it. It's pretty cool. I haven't been out there since they knocked it down, but I was certainly out there when it was up and running, and as for a couple of reasons. But one of them is as a Labor 41 member out there pouring some concrete on some railings. But in the future, when your family gathers around the couch and starts streaming a movie on Netflix, the digital content may be coming faster into your home from a massive industrial-sized data center on the shoreline of Lake Michigan. Indianapolis attorney Tom Dakich and New York City-based data center mogul Pete Feldman plan to invest at least $40 million in the proposed Indiana Knapp data center at the site of the former coal-fired State Line generating plant on the border of Hammond and Chicago. The project is estimated to create 250 construction jobs for skilled tradesmen and would include a tech incubator, a renewable energy campus, and a greenhouse for Purdue University Northwest. So ultimately, I don't know what the rest of this article says, but the guy that's one of the guys that shares an office, I have this office here in the Strachan Van Til Studios, but I also have a little desk on the other side in the commercialization center. I just use it, there's a little bit of room there, so I use that in the middle of the day. And the guy sitting right across from me is a guy named RJ, I forget his last name, and he grows weird things in weird ways. And then the other guy that works over there is Mont Hanley, and he has a system for tracking plants. And they're all into this, and they basically, I think, talked Tom Dakich in this, and Feldman pay no attention to the guy behind the curtain, into creating a greenhouse because all of this heat is going to be produced by all of these data center racks of computers. And they want to take this heat and circulate it into a greenhouse. It's a great idea, and I hope it comes off. But they're working on that, and we're over here talking about it. And that was right after they had talked to the Times. So it's a really kind of a neat thing in that they build this massive warehouse right along Lake Michigan, and then they run a line up to the main web hub for the Midwest, which is at Cermak, and I don't know, they call it 350 Cermak, I think they call it. And it's this massive building where like all of our internet goes through basically around here. And so they would connect into that, and then they would rent storage space in the big warehouse. And that's basically the model. And I'll tell you why this is important. As you guys well know, I've been streaming video for a long time with Chuck Pullen. Chuck Pullen hosted a show last night for us here. And we were streaming video like YouTube, or like live video like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter before they did it. And we built that system, and it cost me a lot of money. And I thought, man, people are going to want to stream their own video, and let's do this. So we built the system. We had a big enough system to do it, but we just could not buy enough internet. We couldn't get enough high-speed internet here in Hammond, so I would have had to move it to either Chicago or South Bend to get the kind of internet, and then it was going to be about $10,000 a month, and it just wasn't feasible. So we just scrapped it when Facebook Live came out, and I said, all right, well, forget it. Facebook's doing it. We don't need to stream video anymore. We'll just use theirs. But now this opens up a lot of possibilities. If you can get a data hub where you can get reasonably cheap internet and reasonably cheap storage space for your computer on their land, then that opens up a whole realm of possibilities for other internet-based companies. Let's face it, I'll be straight with you guys. We got this commercialization center here at Purdue, and you have other tech incubators around. You got the one on Ridge Road over here. You got one in downtown Hammond. To me, the number one handicap to what we're doing here technologically is that we don't have the kind of internet at the price that you need it. And there's a whole bunch of businesses that can't come here because of it. Anyways, I'll be right back. I'm going to talk to a couple kids from my sports broadcasting class, and we're going to talk about everything else going on. But mostly, if you guys want to call in, 219-845-1100. And then after I talk to these guys, I'm probably going to call some of my relatives. Everybody's kind of sleeping in for my grandma's funeral today. And I would just like to wake a couple of them, and just so that they look really tired tonight. All right, be right back.
Ironworkers Local 395, through their contractor employers, the Northwest Indiana Contractors Association, are the workers you see building Northwest Indiana. They are the craftsmen building your schools, hospitals, malls, steel mills, and manufacturing plants. They support local charities, including Tradewinds and Chasing Dreams, and they coach your kids after work and on the weekend. They live, work, and contribute to all of our local communities' economic growth. To find out more about these organizations, visit ironworkers395.com or nwicontractors.org.
You know, I enjoy watching basketball at home, but I think we should go over to Johnny's Tap in Munster for drinks and fun.
Yeah, I like going to Johnny's Tap.
Speaking of fun, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. and Mrs. Fun.
Mr. Who and Mrs. Who?
Mr. and Mrs. Fun, but they're at Johnny's Tap.
Okay, I'll see you there, at the corner of Broadmoor and Calumet Avenue.
Yeah, I like going to Johnny's Tap.
Johnny's Tap. New ownership, now smoke-free, and still the home of Mr. and Mrs. Fun.
A real neighborhood type of place.
ARW Pro Wrestling, the best in the Midwest, returns to Morton High School in Hammond, Indiana. Max Holiday teams with Ivan Manson to face Old School Manson and Drex Odell. Mr. M80 Marche Rocket versus the Dark Horse, Nick Cutler. Greg Glover takes on Anthony Totelli. Moxie Molly meets Stacy Shadows for the first time. Aggravated Assault butts heads with the Machine and Johnny Showtime. And in a three-way dance, Excalibur versus Dave Allen versus Theo Storm. All the titles are on the line. Saturday, April 14th. This is a fundraiser for marching band uniforms. Doors open at 6 p.m. Showtime, 7 p.m. ARW Pro, the best in the Midwest. Morton High School, Hammond, Indiana. Saturday, April 14th. All the action, all the excitement, and everything you'd expect from ARW Pro.
What are you going to do when you grow up? Me, I'm going to talk on the radio with you on AM 1230 WJOB and 104.7 FM, the voice and face of the region. Got to remember, you two, I got two of my students in here. They're like, man, he's altogether different when he talks in class. It's kind of serious and not messing around, and talks to us a lot nicer then, too. But anyways, 294 around the city looks good in both directions. 80 going east and west looks good. Bishop Ford, Dan Ryan, Skyway, Toll Road, Borman, I-65. Hey, everybody's moving along pretty well, even though the roads are slick, folks. What you had is you had a bunch of rain. My daughter's flight was delayed last night, so I was driving home from Midway at 11:30 at night, and it was 37 degrees, and it was really slick. And now it is 26 degrees, so a lot of that moisture has frozen on the road. I'm surprised that it's not more accidents, and I'm not hoping or hope that there's a kibosh put on there. But right now is as easy a driving as you have around the Chicago area, and I don't see anything major right now. I did see a major delay yesterday, in that in the middle of Indianapolis Boulevard, on the top of the bridge between, like, say, Webb Ford and Meyer in Highland, it's not just that they have a lane closed in the middle. They have a massive section of that bridge closed for a long time. Ryan, you drive over it yet? No? Jimmy, you drive over it yet? Drive over it yet, Jay? Josh Shellerzar drove over it. Hi, Josh. How are you?
Doing good. How about yourself?
I mean, they put these concrete barriers up on the inside, so now it's a single lane and it's really thin. It's not auspicious driving. How does that? I just don't like doing that when you're in this little bitty lane. There's two concrete barriers, one on each side, and I don't know what's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, I was coming back yesterday about 11:15. And it was a very long line going northbound on Indianapolis Boulevard. So going forward through November, I keep trying to tell you guys this. Try to avoid Indianapolis Boulevard over there between Webb Ford and Meyer. And it's just going to be that way the whole time. All right, traffic brought to you by our good friends at Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. And then let's take a look at what's happening in terms of weather. It's 27 degrees here at the Strakavat Till Studios, and it's going up to a high of only in the mid-30s. Cold, windy day. Maybe a little bit of snow here in the morning. It might snow for a little while in the next hour, and then it will kind of go away. Sun will come out, but, man, don't get fooled. It's gonna be cold. It's a winter day today. Same thing tomorrow. High of around 40, snow and rain in the afternoon tomorrow. Thursday, a high in the 30s. Gets down to the teens or the low 20s overnight. So it's 5 days of winter, my friends. Welcome to the region. I'll drink to that. All right, what's your name?
Jay.
Jay what?
Jay Coben.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
Where'd you go to high school?
Easy Central.
Really? Did you know Edward Clark?
Yep. I know him pretty much like my whole time at Central.
Really? He sat where you are right now yesterday, but you wouldn't know that because you were sleeping during my show yesterday because you're a student. What's your name?
My name's Josh Salazar.
Where are you from?
I'm from Highland, Indiana, born and raised.
Oh, so you went to Highland High School?
Yes, I did go to Highland High School.
Do they have any sort of... Talking to the mic, don't look at me. Okay. Do they have any sort of broadcasting classes over there?
No real broadcasting classes, I would say. Some media studies. Craig Rogenbuck helped out a little bit with that, but not really like anything that gets into the broadcasting world of actually speaking into mics and using camcorders and stuff like that.
Really? So what got you into broadcasting or sports broadcasting?
I was a little lost my freshman year. I started off into business because my mom works at a bank. She told me I could get you in, something like that, but I just wasn't for it. Numbers really aren't my thing. A whole lot of time putting in that. I just like conversing with people and communicating good feelings, I guess you would say. Good things about sports, all things.
So let me ask you, where are you living right now?
I'm living at home still in Highland. I'm 22 years old.
So are you in the basement yet, or are you still up in your old room?
I'm still up in my old room. I have two older brothers, so they moved out, and I'm just kind of still circulating around the house.
So
my dad.
So are they? Did you get one of their better rooms, or did you stay in your littler room because you were a little brother?
I was the littlest brother, so I always got the worst of everything. I got the worst room, but I kind of made it my own home with my posters and stuff, and I just didn't even want to take it down, so I stood with it.
What kind of posters?
I have Warriors. Do you know like the movie The Warriors?
Yeah.
I have a
Come
Warriors
out and
poster.
play.
Yeah, that's
Warriors. Come out and play. But anyways, yeah, go ahead.
That's a cult classic favorite
Yeah.
of mine. I have and then I have the first ever comic book poster board of Thor because he is my favorite superhero.
Really? Thor is?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Thor, so I'm not going to ask a follow-up question here. I'm just going to instead go over here to Jay Coben and find out now. Jay, you're what? How old again? 20?
Yep.
You went to EC Central. Are you a sophomore or freshman?
I'm a sophomore right now.
Okay, and why are you in my sports broadcasting class?
Well, because I took a radio TV class when I was in high school, so I really enjoyed it. And sports just happened to be one of my biggest passions. So this class kind of fit like both areas for me.
What are you living at home? What are you doing?
Well, I'm currently living at the dorms.
Oh, you're in the dorms.
Yep.
Really? How do you like that?
It's pretty good.
Do you know a lot of people? Do you guys have fun in? I mean, one of the things I don't hear about is like the cops busted up a big party in the dorms. You know what I mean? I've never heard that.
Yeah, because the dorms are pretty quiet. I mean, you go into the wrong camp, you're trying to find like a party. You might have to go to West Lafayette for that.
Well, part of it is there's so many engineering students around, and let's just make a generalization. You know what? Let's just be straight. The engineering students just aren't the most exciting people in the world. I'm sorry. You can say what you want. There might be some that are, just incredibly intellectual and they tell great stories and they have fun. But for the most part, in years gone by, they would have worn pocket protectors on their little, their shirt sleeves here, and they may have known how to use a slide rule. And you don't even know what that is, do you?
No.
Okay, well, good. My dad was an engineering student at Purdue. He knew how to use a slide rule and put a pocket protector on his pocket. But anyways, I'll just forget about that. So, Jay, ultimately, what do you want to do when you get out of Purdue Northwest?
Well, finding any starting job like sports broadcasting, where it's like behind the camera or producing or in front of the camera.
What about you, Josh?
I was thinking I have a lot of dream jobs to do. Broadcast for the WWE, like to become a play-by-play announcer for that. A lot of things. Jonathan Coachman got his start going into ESPN from there, but also anything from just becoming music producer to television producer, screenwriter, just taking all the classes necessary so I can head out west and fulfill some dreams.
So you want to go from Highland to Los Angeles?
I would actually like to start a production company somewhere in Las Vegas. That's where my heart is. I have family out there, so I visit like twice a year. I know kind of everything from just like the casinos. I love sports betting a little bit ever since I turned 21.
Well, we got a guy who calls the show. His name's Casey. He runs one of the sports betting out down there, and he could probably hook you up. He's always looking for Midwestern people, and he says nobody comes and visits him. Let's see. You guys just sit with me for a while. The general idea here is that these guys are moving into their final project, my sports broadcasting class, and they are going to be doing hour-long shows in the evening, at least 3 of them, and maybe more. And they're kind of here today to see how everything works. So it's going to be shows that are produced by the students and hosted and moderated, and they play all the commercials and everything. They're going to do everything. So they got to know all these little details. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, that I can't possibly, with my disorganized manner of doing the show and my haphazard attitude. But behind the scenes, I got to be honest with you, I'm pretty serious about broadcasting and communications, and these guys know that, and we've learned a lot from the beginning of the semester. So you're going to be seeing and hearing more of these young people that want to go into sports broadcasting. And in a weird turn of events, I got the class at the last minute. On Friday before it started, they needed an instructor, so they asked me, and I took it. And I've helped teach the course before, but I didn't get a chance to, I guess, recruit more people, like maybe athletes and stuff. So I wound up with 10 broadcasting students, which is really kind of cool. I don't have the people taking an elective or anything. They're all very serious about it. And so you'll be able to hear and watch them over the next month, as they'll be taking over the airwaves on Monday nights. All right, let's take a phone call. 219-845-1100. Ken, how you been, man?
How you been, man? Hey, good. How about you? Sorry to hear about your grandma. I mean, you were very blessed to have her for as long as you've had her, and especially at your age. But I got a couple comments about every morning I hear you complain about the construction going on for years and years and years. You know, everybody that called in complained about how Indianapolis, they got all the construction. Now we got it, and we got to be praising these things, not complaining about them so much.
I don't know as if, that's a natural reaction. Oh. Hello, you still there?
Yeah.
Hello, Ken. Yeah. When these things came out and they were announced, they were praised universally here. I know I was. I was like, thank you, Lord, for bringing all this money up here. But now when you get down to the reality of it, I don't know if it's necessarily directed at anyone. It's just the reality of life around here that we really don't have that many good roads to go north and south through the region. So it's going to be a major hassle. And that has to be continually pointed out here in the media so that people kind of know to stay away from there. And that's kind of the end game of that. It's not a political statement.
Well, yeah, I understand some of that, but as a former construction guy, I know when you drive past some of these sites, you've got to get a little excited about seeing the big machines and all that, right, Jed?
Let me tell you something. Oh, of course. You know what? You know what is one of the things I miss, and I noticed it yesterday when I was at the airport, and midway you park and you're waiting, and the planes are like 100 yards away from you, is that smell of, that's jet fuel, but it kind of smells like diesel. One of the things right. is in the morning when you're starting up the compressors, and, the labor's got to carry stuff around. I was always around diesel, and when you start the compressors up in the morning, they smell a lot more than they do later in the day because they're just getting going. That early morning smell of diesel is something that I genuinely miss in my soul. And there are other parts of it. I mean, the camaraderie on the construction site. And then, of course, that you're actually getting something done that helps people. I get all of that. But in the middle of summer, when people are waiting for a half hour to go over that bridge, all of that's going out the window, and you know that, Ken. They can become downright nasty going through that site. They will yell at people.
Yeah, I know. But the reality of it, those are a lot of good paying jobs, and I mean, you understand it. I understand it because I'm kind of in that industry also. But yeah, it's all good. I mean, it's a hassle, but it's a lot of the stuff's been a long time coming. And I'm just glad to see it's here.
You got time for one question? What trade were you in?
Well, over the years, I used to work for the railroad, so when I get stopped by a train, I understand it. I tend not to get mad because I know that's commerce, and then I work in the electrical industry. So yeah, so and then when I was in high school, I used to be a grinder at a foundry in Harvey called Faralloy. So when I, like you, when I smell like any kind of cutting metal or anything like that, I flash back, But yeah, so I've been in the construction industry and labor industry my whole life. So I just, I know the nuts and bolts of it, and so do you. So it's all, yeah.
I appreciate your comments on this, but I want everyone to know how nasty this is going to get because we don't really have north-south roads here. If you really think about it, it's all boils down to the boulevard going all the way south. I mean, Klein doesn't go through. Kennedy doesn't go through. Calumet only goes through so far. It's only the boulevard. And that, I saw it yesterday, and I drove over there, and I pulled over and looked at it. And those guys, they're putting down the barriers, and they're putting them tight, man. They need a big area in the middle to replace that whole deck. This is a really a big problem. And I had a guy from INDOT tell me that last year. He said, hey, listen, you're going to want to pay attention to that Indianapolis Boulevard project because our projections are, thousands and thousands of hours of delays. All right, Ken, good question, man. Thanks a lot. Talk to you.
Bye-bye.
So one of the things that these guys here in the sports broadcasting class are going to do is they got to learn how to do all that I do, whoever's hosting the show, and then all the other folks. And one of the techniques I just want you guys to notice there is that I didn't let him go until I asked him a question. And I've shared that with you guys before. Don't just say, okay, hey, thanks for your call and say goodbye. Because if you really think about it, you're here and you're talking sports. You are so into sports that anything anybody shares about sports is gold to you. I mean, and we kind of, us three have that same thing along with Ryan, who's all sports, and Jimmy, who's pretty heavy sports too. Everybody's got a story to tell. And as long as you treat every caller like that, then, it's got to be genuine. If you don't think everyone's got a story to tell, then you're in the wrong business. And you got to come back at them and find out what they're saying. That's what the nature of sports talk is over time, is people call in and they respond to the things that you've said, okay? So anyways, I don't mean to be instructing right now, but these guys will be with us the rest of the week. I'll have somebody here every morning. And so now you guys are done. Go back over here and learn everything they're doing. Ryan doesn't talk that much during the show, so you actually have to ask him questions because he's a little bit brusque. But other than that, Jimmy will answer your questions. So I want you guys both to sit in these positions for a period this morning. Okay? All right, I'll be right back. AM 1230 WJOB. Do you guys know what sildenafil is?
No, I do.
You will one day.
Men, are you taking Viagra or Cialis for ED? ED should not stand for expensive drugs. If you're taking Viagra, talk with your doctor about sildenafil. Now you could get the same active ingredient in Viagra in generic 20 milligram tablets for less than $2 each, saving over $30 per dose. Available at Vito's Pharmacy. Call us 219-228-7200 or visit us at vitospharmacy.com.
Vito's Pharmacy.
Fill your garage with your dream car during the Honda Dream Garage Spring event going on now at Napleton's River Oaks Honda. They're Northwest Indiana's destination for new and certified pre-owned Hondas. Napleton's River Oaks Honda has a huge selection of brand new and certified pre-owned Civics, Accords, CRVs, and Pilots. Come find out why you always get our best deal at River Oaks Honda. As always, Indiana residents pay Indiana sales tax right off 8094 on Torrance Avenue or online at riveroakshonda.com.
Mapleton, second to none since 1931.
Do you have a family history of heart disease or diabetes? St. Catherine Hospital Cardiovascular Prevention Center providers are offering free assessments to help determine your risk for heart disease and other related medical conditions. On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 9 to 11:30 a.m., you can stop by the center at 7217 Indianapolis Boulevard in Hammond for assessments like an ABI leg circulation test, blood pressure, body mass index, random glucose assessment, and more. You must be 18 or older, and walk-ins are welcome. You have only one body. Let St. Catherine Hospital of Community Healthcare System help you take care of it. You can also call 219-392-7CVP to book an appointment today.
What you gonna do with your life, huh? I had a student the other day. I don't know. I guess it was on the air here. I can't remember who it was. And I asked her, so what are you majoring in? Sociology. What you gonna do? Sell shoes? Drive a cab? That's what my uncle Danny Brown of Local 599 for 30-plus years said to me when I came back with my sociology degree from the University of California. What you gonna do? Sell shoes? Drive a cab? Anyways, I'll see my Uncle Danny and a whole bunch of other people tonight when we get together to I guess he's been, I was going to say incinerated. That's not the word. What do you call that? Cremated. Sorry, Graham. I'm looking at a picture of her right now. And it's the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King. And right now, if you go, not right now, give him a minute. In 1 minute, as soon as I do traffic and weather, Jimmy Mulaney is going to flash a couple of very historical photo of Martin Luther King talking here at WJOB, and it's kind of cool. Really cool photo. It's a really cool photo with one of those old microphones right in front of him. It says WJOB, and I think it was at a local church. But anyways, let's take a look at what's going on in traffic. 294 around the city looks good. 80 going east and west looks good. Bishop Ford, Dan Ryan, lighter than normal. And the Skyway Toll Road, Borman, I-65, US 30, and Klein Avenue are all moving along pretty well. And traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. They let us do whatever we want. Sometimes I even mess around with it, and I go, I kind of move the words around, and like I'll say near Dew, Porthwest, or I'll say Vakenstrand Tills. Once in a while I say Rapleton, Niver Oaks Honda, and that one just doesn't flow as easily, but I do it once in a while, and they're just really cool with it because they're cool people. I've been over there to the Honda dealership, and it really is, if you're looking to buy a new car, just start right there and say, all right, here I am first. I want to look at your Hondas. What do you got? And Jed said to come here first. All right, let's take a look at what you got in terms of the weather. A high of 38 today, but right now it's nowhere near there. It's 27 degrees here on the campus of New Dew Porthwest in the Vakenstrand Till Studios. And Debbie Wargo, every time I do that, she texts me, you got to stop doing that. Or she even drives down here to say, listen, you can't do that to our sponsors. And I'm like, listen, if you're going to sponsor here, you got to have just a little bit of a Teflon back. And that once in a while I'm going to make fun, or I'm going to not be, this isn't an infomercial, you know what I mean? So I think Streff Jack is he's okay if I just kind of mention it once in a while and I say Vakenstrand Till Studios. I hope he is. I hope he's okay with Streff Jack because today the new Vakenstrand Till flyer came out. Ryan, where's the flyer? It was just sitting here, and I saw they had all sorts of good sales going on. But anyways, we'll get to that in a second. I have 38 today, cold with clouds and sun. And then right now we might get a little bit more snow this morning. There's been a little bit of a dusting more out to the western suburbs of Chicago. But you got a little bit going on. And then we got 5 winter days. 5 winter days coming our way. It doesn't get out of the 30s really until, I don't know, for a while. At least not the next 5 days. Maybe it gets up to 40 tomorrow. Maybe it gets up to 40 on Sunday. But most of the time it spends in the 30s, the 20s, and even in the teens going next forward for the next 5 days. And you know what? That means it is a really good time to think about getting some Italian bratwurst or andouille sausage. And it's $2.99 a pound. And there are assorted varieties of that. Is that Tony Andello out there? Am I saying his name right? No, I'm not. I'm saying it wrong. And part of the reason is Tony grew up in the neighborhood as like one of my little brother's friends. And if you're like a semi-bully in the neighborhood and you just don't care about little kids when you're older, you kind of forget the younger kids' names and you hammer them sometimes. And I did that last time that Tony was on. It's Anthony now, I think, though. But and I messed up his name, so I'm not going to do that. When I bring him on here in a little bit, I'm actually going to get his name right, okay? So he's going to be here from talking about some community healthcare stuff. But, Ryan, I wanted to talk about Hoop Dreams. And I lost that one, too. So we'll talk about Hoop Dreams. That's coming up on Friday. That starts at 6 o'clock. And Ryan's going to give that to me. I'm going to give up right now because I can't find anything. And I'm just entirely disorganized. And Billy Baker came in and kind of, he tongue-lashed me for, why don't you get some organization to your table here? It goes back to, remember Coach Mason? He was at Clark, then he went to Andrean. And now he's at Michigan City. He came in with me a couple of times, and one time he was sitting here. I was in the old studio, and all of a sudden he kind of stopped talking and had this really worried look on his face, and I'm like, Coach, what's up, man? He's, look, I got to tell you, man, I'm like kind of a clean freak, and I like things organized, and he goes, it's freaking me out, all this mess you got around me. Can I clean it up real quick, and then we can go on with the interview? I'm like, sure, go ahead. And he cleaned it up. As a matter of fact, he went out and he got some wipes and he wiped down the whole table, and then he organized my papers into today's and yesterday's and the day before, and then he actually adjusted some of the stuff on the walls, and then he said, all right, now I'm ready to do the interview. All right, anyways, I don't know why I brought that up, because we're thinking of sports. All right, let's talk to my one of my favorite people in the whole world. He doesn't wake up as early anymore because he just lays in bed, and he used to listen to my show, but rumor has it he just kind of sleeps till about 9 some days. And that is from the driving metropolis of Munster, Indiana, Lee Ramirez. Lee, how you doing,
Jim.
man?
Good morning. First of all, offer my condolences on your grandma.
Thanks, Lee.
From one grandparent to another, though, the probably greatest joy a grandparent can have is to see the success of their grandchildren. And I'm sure all you little kids have done well for your grandma.
Thank you,
rest in
Lee.
peace.
Lee Ramirez is related to Alexis, and he is also the grandfather of the 9th round draft pick for the Chicago White Sox, who is headed to Kannapolis. I don't know if he's there yet. Is he there yet?
Yeah, he got there on Easter Sunday. What I called about, Jim, I wanted to give you a little sports information. You mentioned Tom Dockich this morning, and it brought back old memories. I don't know if you're aware, but Tom's dad and uncle were both outstanding athletes in their high school days at Horace Mann, both basketball players. I believe they played at Idaho.
I did not know that. I just thought that Tom was an athlete. I think, was he a football player, right? And he played.
No, Tom Jr. is the attorney.
Yeah.
Tom Sr. Was the younger brother of Roy Dockich, who was a local attorney and probate judge for many years at Lake County. And I believe Tom's dad was an educator. I believe he was a teacher and administrator. I believe in Calumet's schools.
Yes, it was Calumet. So Lee, let's look at this. People don't, and this is one of the things that gets Al Hamnick kind of irritated, all right? We talk a lot here about the
current
people, and then we have like the Hammond Sports Hall of Fame, and we talk about, I interview once in a while, the history of Hammond Sports, and then we talk a lot about East Chicago sports. We may even talk about the heritage of Griffith football and that kind of stuff. One of the things that has been lost through the years, and they're looking to preserve this stuff, is the incredibly rich sports history of Gary. And
my nephew Chris has been trying for years to put something together like that.
And he's not. There just isn't that much interest. Like, I got these kids here that are in my sports broadcasting class. If I said Horace Mann, they might not even know who that was. That there was a school named Horace Mann.
Well, in addition to that, now you have young Eric Gastovich.
Yeah.
His dad was also an outstanding basketball player out of Gary Frable and played ball at the University of Louisville. And he was an attorney. But Vlad came here from the old country in the late 30s, early 40s. And I'm listening here, and you're talking about Tom Dockich Jr. Getting into a investment of some $40 million. And here Eric's been putting all these millions of dollars into these buildings. And I sit there with a smile on my face to think guys that came out of our generation from very humble families to see what their children are now doing for their communities. But I just thought I'd give you that little sports thing on Gastovich and Dockich.
You know what? Thank you. I appreciate that, because I didn't know Gastovich's dad and uncle were that big of athletes also. I've gotten to know them. They're the ones that are doing the big 29-29 on the Borman over here by Buffalo Wild Wings, and he has done some massive developments.
Well, he's the one that built that big place over on 45th Avenue, that housing project where the auto dealership used to be. They tore it down, and I guess he spent some $10-11 million putting that complex up.
Yeah. Hey, am I going to see you today or no?
I'm not sure if I'll be there or not. Ruth's still a little bit under the weather.
Okay. Well, I hope she's feeling well. I know that Craig getting drafted by the Sox and doing so well. And all right. I just got to know this. when he hit that home run in the spring training game, were you watching it live or did you see it later?
No, but I got videos of it. I got to see it after the fact. I got a call right away when he hit it. Root's got a cousin lives in Arizona, and she gives us an up-to-date play-by-play of everything that he does. So.
All right, Lee. Thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, Jim. My condolences to the whole family.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, bye.
All right, one more call here, and then I'll get to Tony. And what's going on, Dave? How are you?
Good morning.
How are you?
Greg end up about 380, right? Didn't he? Spring training when he batting like 380.
You know what? I think it's hard to find those stats, but for the I think it was 500 for the actual White Sox. Right. But then in like the minor league games, I don't know what his total was. Yeah.
Nice. Hey, I'm just listening to you. And westbound 8094, by the way, from I-65 to the state line is just wide open, not a problem. And just everyone's being orderly and traveling at a safe speed. So if you want to go from east to west, I know north and south is going to be a nightmare over the next year, but east and west, 8094 is moving quite well.
Cool. So what's on your mind?
It's just you mentioned you being creative with your sponsors' names. I think if anyone has been listening since 2006, and they sign on the dotted line and want to advertise with JOB, I think most people know what they're getting into with you, so I think that's part of the fun of it. And,
yeah, well, explain that to Debbie Wargo and my sister Jennifer. Those are really heated conversations. They're like, we work our asses off to get these sponsors in here, and you call them Rapleton River Oaks Honda. And she's like, how are we? And I go, you know what? I know those people. They're fine with it. And then, I'll make fun of Andy Kulturitis' song. And I'm like, well, if Andy Kulturitis has a problem with it, he'll text me. So don't worry about it.
And he's my dentist now because of that song, and it's very infectious, and it's one of those stupid things you sing when you're in the car by yourself, even though you don't hear the commercial. It's just, I hope he never changes it. It's just one of those really subliminal message, infectious songs that just.
Hey, Dave, in a little bit, in a 7 o'clock hour, I'm going to talk about the YouTube shooting, and I'm going to talk about courtyards and stuff, and I'm going to want you to call back at that point, okay? I'm going to take a guess right now, but it kind of relates to you and your when you made the trucking comment, and I was thinking about that this morning. All right, thank you so much. All right, what's going on here? What's your name, sir? Right here, the guy with the gray hair. Come on up into the microphone, will you, please? Remember I called you Tony Nardella last time? Do you remember that?
Yes, and you went to school with me. That's nice.
Yeah, that was nice. Isn't that great? I'm sure you went back to your office, and then your people are like, I thought you said you knew that guy. And he didn't even know how to say your name. So, hey, it is what it is, right?
Actually, it was my dad.
Yes. Sorry, Mr. Nardello. Tony Andello, how you doing?
All right.
What's going on, man? You got Hoop Dreams coming on this Friday, right?
Hoop Dreams this Friday, and I have Dan Shee. Dan Shee is part of the Epic team at the hospital, at St. Catherine Hospital. He's with the system, and he's been the catalyst about 3 years ago that brought this to administration and asked if we could do a fundraiser for basketball. So I can let Dan go in a little bit more detail.
Dan, how you doing? What do you do at St. Catherine's?
I take care of the electronic medical record system, part of the members of that big undertaking. And I had a dream a couple years ago just because of the relationships I had formed working as a therapist within the community health systems, and just had this great idea with some common brain trust that we could use basketball on any kind of platform to bring people together. And what better reason but for the Cancer Resource Center, which I was always participating in their events throughout the year, and said, hey, Tony, can we add another thing to your plate?
That's all right.
There you go. $5 tickets. It's going to be at Munster High Gym. The doors open at 6, tip off at 7 p.m. So before we do that, get all into that, and I know you guys are here to talk about that. Where are you from, Dan?
Maryville originally.
Maryville? And did you go to school to become part of the medical staff?
Yes, I went to IUN locally, and my original undergrad studies was in respiratory therapy, and That's kind of how I met Tony originally, working side by side with him until he came onto this position. So it was really easy to first pitch administration and then Tony, of course, with that working relationship. But yes.
So Tony, tell people what you do at the Cancer Resource Center.
Well, I'm from Munster, Indiana. Went to Munster High School. I am the director of the Cancer Resource Center. I've been at the Resource Center since 2004. I've been with the healthcare system since 2000. And the Cancer Resource Center is a not-for-profit entity of the Community Cancer Research Foundation, which the center is a support program of. And we've had, we provide support, education, encouragement for patients and their loved ones at no cost.
And that's on Ridge Road?
926 Ridge Road.
So if somebody gets a cancer diagnosis, what's the chronology to getting involved with you?
Usually what will happen is the doctor's physician's office or the floors on the hospital system, they'll let them know about our resource center. And then what will happen is the patients will come through our doors and are greeted by our volunteers and our staff. And we provide, we give them tours of the center. We have them sit down, fill out some information so we can address some of their needs.
And so let's go back to this. So you guys are raising money for what on Friday?
The funds that are raised from the Hoop Dreams for a Cure basketball fundraiser comes directly to the Cancer Resource Center, so we can provide services at no charge to those that we serve in Northwest Indiana and the south suburbs of Chicago.
So, Dan, are you a basketball fan, or what's up?
Oh, I grew up playing basketball and fell in love the moment my parents moved us here from Chicago to Indiana. And I guess my only chance at actually playing was making the 9th grade team.
For Maryville?
For Maryville, but at that time it was still the middle school, junior high. So, but I still play and still
Harrison?
love it. Harrison.
Okay.
Harrison Junior High Patriots. So, but I still love it, regardless of if I ever made that team or not, and still play. And again, it's great. It's
With
great
all
sport.
due respect, I mean, to put this in context, if you're going to go to a high school and try to make the basketball team, I got to believe that Maryville is probably the hardest one in Northwest Indiana. There's so many kids, and there's so many really good basketball players. So don't beat yourself up over not making the Maryville varsity team, okay?
Yeah.
Now, if you really wanted to be on the varsity basketball team, just have your family move over to Lake Station or River Forest, and you might have a shot.
Right.
But Maryville is. I'd watch now. All of a sudden, Lake Station, River Forest people are going to be emailing me like, "What do you got against them?" And then you're like Billy Bush. You nodded your head and laughed, so you're right there with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Listen. So what goes on here? I mean, what is on at a Hoop Dreams? I mean, I know it's around basketball, and people could come in and you're going to have fun, but is it just going to open up the gym, or are they going to be special events, or what?
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
We've tried different things for halftime. For year one, we kind of piggybacked off some celebrity status from one of the doctors, Dr. Gene Chang, and he was on Family Feud. So we worked with the Center of Performing Arts to create a little mini stage.
Family Feud.
Family Feud right there in Munster High, and did that for halftime. And years subsequent from that, we tried a dance-off. Mm-hmm. It was all about engagement of the hospital system to just get everyone out there. Even if you weren't a fan of basketball, there might have been another reason. If another loved one was performing on behalf of memory or survivorship. So that's the one thing I love to see, and the stories that we put in the bios. There's just so many different reasons now to come to that game, I feel, and hope to continue this tradition.
So who's playing? Who plays in the game?
The medical staff and the physicians.
So the staff plays the physicians?
Yeah, at Community Healthcare Systems. So we have St. Mary's, St. Catherine, Community Healthcare System, some of the outpatient centers as well.
St. Mary is in
Hobart.
Hobart. Don't I have a cousin that works there?
I believe
St.
so.
Mary's, yeah.
Yep.
Is he playing?
I don't think so.
Doug Diedlow? No.
Oh, yeah, he's playing.
Is he really?
Dr. Diedlow?
No, Doug Diedlow.
There's okay.
He's Dr. Diedlow, but I'm pretty sure in the history of our family, not one person has ever called him that. So I don't know who you're talking about, but
He is
Dr.
playing.
Deedlow is a very good basketball player, and he's 6'2", 3.
6'2". He was
Yeah.
there last night at practice. And
Oh, really?
He's a rebound machine.
He is. As a matter of fact, in Maryville basketball history, there is a guy by the name of Brian Delich who played for Maryville.
Yes.
And he's 6'6",
Mhm.
and he married my cousin. And they have these kids that are big athletes now and all that. But when he first came around, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, we had a basketball game. And Delich is 6'6", and Doug is 6'3" at that point. I think he lost an inch. And so they have to guard each other. And we play over here at Dowling Park. And Delich is, I don't know, maybe 27, 28. So he's still pretty young and can push people around. Doug's in his 30s, upper 30s maybe. And they start getting into it. Like just really down and dirty. And Doug pushed Dr. Deedlow, pushes him really hard at one point and says, get away from me, you oaf. And we had to separate them. So if that happens tonight with Dr. Deedlow and you see him start getting into it with, like, say, one of the medical records guys underneath the boards, you may have to just calm him down a little bit because, like Frank Murphy, you know who's the nastiest rebounder in the whole region, and he serves the poor. And he does all of these. So he's a nasty person on the basketball court, and I don't mind saying that because I'm related to him. Frank Mervan III. Some people you put them underneath the basket, and something weird happens. That's going to happen with Doug. You're right.
Okay.
All right, Dr. Deedlow. I'm sorry. So he's playing. Any of the other doctors? Who else playing? Any names you can throw out?
I'll definitely have to throw out Ramesh Uni because he's a part of the other side of getting the doctors involved. Every year I depend on him, and he does his own great kind of event himself called Doshfesh. And that's probably one of the reasons also that I had the idea, but also continue it. Just using sport is just a great way to bring people together. But I feel that the Cancer Resource Center, for people that work in healthcare, it gives us that extra conversation we would have at the bedside that we normally would not. And when we find out they have cancer, we say, hey, do you know anything about the Cancer Resource Center? It's a great free resource to find out about your cancer and all the support mechanisms there. But again, going back to Dr. Uni, I got to give him a shout out all the time. And he's one of the great collaborators that brings the doctors on board to make this event happen pretty much.
So there's no ringers? You don't have like a guy who played shooting guard for Illinois State, and now he's a respiratory therapist, and he averaged 16 points in small Division I. You don't have that? Because every time we had this at the Board of Trade in Chicago, there were guys that would hire the ringers just to have them on their team for when the games came around. We don't have that? All right, everybody's on the up and up here?
We had one last year. Tony probably knows the story of the guy, the ringer last year.
Who is the guy?
Munster High School graduate, went to Loyola.
Who?
I can't think of his name.
Joe Chrisman. Joe Chrisman.
Yep, he was a ringer, and he had it on his shirt.
Oh,
Sorry,
big
Joe.
time
Sorry, Joey
ringer.
Chrisman. I couldn't remember the name.
Joe Chrisman is a big-time ringer. I've played many times over there and pick up ball with him in the Munster games, and you know why he was a Division I basketball player. As a matter of fact, Loyola would have benefited this time around for having him. Probably he might not have started, but he would have come off the bench and would have been able to help them had he still been there. I think he's been out probably 3 years now, so he's probably still in pretty good shape.
Oh,
All right,
yeah.
so that'll be on Friday, and that'll be at Munster High Gym. Anybody that's remotely associated with the Cancer Resource Center, with the community healthcare system, they're going to put this on. There'll be a lot of help, and 50-50 raffles, concessions, all that stuff. You get a Hoop Dreams T-shirt. I got to believe it's just going to be a lot of fun. Anything else on this one, Tony?
No, just since this event kicked off 3 years ago, we've raised over $23,000 for the Resource Center. It's a fun evening to bring family and kids. It's just a fun event. We have the dance-off. We have a lot of opportunities for photo ops with some of the doctors and staff, and come out on Friday.
And you'll be able to see Doug Deedlow, otherwise known as Dr. Deedlow, who was a member of Bishop Knowles' state football champion or state football contender when they went downstate. I forget what year that was. And he'll be out there, and I'll see him tonight also. What's that? '89 was it? I can't remember the year that he was. No, it wasn't '89. He was well before that. All right, guys, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Sorry to Mr. Andello for messing up your name last time
That's all right.
because I had a number of guys text me like my brother even. He's like, "Gosh, you're an idiot." You remember that kid? Remember when you used to hang around the house? All right, tell people if I was a nice guy or not.
You were very nice. I never had any issues with you. You've always been a gentleman. You've always been great.
There are some friends of Ryan and Jeff's that
might think differently.
I had some buddies back then, guy by the name of Bill Howarth and Chris Kleizak, that weren't necessarily very nice to the younger guys that came around. But hey, there it is. Tony Andello, he's does great work over here at the Cancer Resource Center. And if somebody does get that cancer diagnosis, first thing you want to do is you want to go in and see Tony. Not only is it nice inside, and they have all sorts of activities for people that are fighting it or are survivors, but also he's got this really nice garden outside, and people making it's not warm enough yet, but it's just a nice little peaceful place.
It's very surreal.
It's very surreal because it's right on Ridge Road, and then you're like, wow, I feel like I'm in like a Buddhist peace garden, and it has that feel to it. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, be right back here on the voice and face of the region.
Eduardo's Natural Pizza in Munster has built a reputation for serving the finest Chicago-style stuffed pizza, loaded with fresh and natural ingredients. Not interested in stuffed pizza? Eduardo's has the best thin crust pizza, appetizers, salads, pastas, and more. Pick up a half-baked pizza from Eduardo's to take home and bake at your convenience. It's the perfect solution for those hectic nights. Eduardo's is located at 7920 Calumet Avenue in Munster. Dine in or carry out by calling 836-2010.
Hi, I'm Mary Estep, Athletic Training Outreach Coordinator for Community Healthcare System Sports Medicine Program. Our fellowship-trained, board-certified experts are ready to treat the athlete in you. Whether it's pain or injury from activity on the court, in the field, or in your everyday life, we offer services and locations throughout Northwest Indiana. Visit our website to learn more at comhs.org/sports.
Hi, I'm Tom.
And I'm Michelle.
And we're the Tomfoolery Fun Club. We're pleased to announce that Tomfoolery will once again return to the majestic Hoosier Theater in Whiting, Indiana for a very special event.
The Fun Club will be back at the Hoosier for an evening of delightful comedy and some amazing live music.
That's right, Michelle. The incredible Mickey Housley headlines the most talented lineup card of top-flight comedians.
On the musical front, fan favorite Nomad Planets will be in the house to rock the night away.
Please join us on April 14th at the Hoosier Theater in Whiting for this incredible Fun Club night out.
For ticket information, please go to tomfooleryfunclub.com.
That's tomfooleryfunclub.com.
Would you go to a doctor that isn't board certified? No, of course not. Then why would you trust in a lawyer that isn't board certified? If you've been injured in an accident and it's not your fault, get someone that's a board certified civil trial specialist by the National Board of Trial Advocacy. Get someone with over 20 years experience who's a member of the Best Lawyers of America and Indiana Super Lawyers and has achieved the highest possible peer review rating of AV by Martindale Hubbell. Get Gladish. Attorney David Gladish in Highland and his team will deal with the insurance company and its attorneys while you put your life back together. Experience, ratings, and board certification really do matter. Get Gladish. For a free consultation, call 219-838-1900, 838-1900, or visit dgladishlaw.com. That's the letter D, GLADISH law.com.
6:59 in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Diedlow, host of JED in the region. Hey, you guys, I want these sports broadcasting guys to be sitting in your chair at least for a little while today, okay? Yeah, okay, good enough. I want them answering the phones. If you want to call in, 219-845-1100. Jay Coben's going to be on the phones for a little while here. And then Josh Salazar is going to be switching the cameras and learning Jimmy Mulaney's job. Those guys are in my sports broadcasting class. And we're going to have students in here over the next couple of weeks in the morning. Hey, let's take a look at traffic. 294 around the city looks good. 80 going east and west looks good. Bishop Ford and the Dan Ryan are moving along lighter than normal, though you have a little bit of a tight spot going in, say, 111th to maybe 95th are pretty bad. Other than that, it's moving along. Skyway looks good. Borman looks good. Now, we have reports that going eastbound, there may be some ice on the roads, especially when you get to Porter County. It's 28 degrees right now, so a lot of that moisture that was there yesterday has has frozen, and you got some slick spots. I am so glad that we don't have major delays right now on most of the roadways with the frozen ice that's out there. But we do have a delay on the South Shore, and I've got a couple of different levels of that, but I have reports of a delay, but the website doesn't have that. So anybody that has any more news on this, I would like to hear from you guys. As far as I understand it, there are no delays on the South Shore, and I have two reports here that there might, the train hasn't come when it asks when it was supposed to. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't have the great information on that right now. My best information is going off the NICTY website, which says there are no significant delays at this time. All right, there you go. Traffic and travel brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. And then, what do you have in terms of the weather? We have winter weather for 5 days. You get maybe a little more. We had a little bit of a dusting of snow in some areas, and not right here along the boulevard at the Strachan Van Til Studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest. But in some areas, we had a little bit of snow. Certainly was raining last night when I was coming back from Midway picking up my daughter, who has come in for my grandmother's funeral today. It's at 4 to 8, and with a 7 o'clock service that will be officiated by Dwayne Delo, the former mayor of Hammond. He, of course, is a deacon in the Catholic Church, and he does this kind of stuff all the time. But he will be doing it for his aunt, my grandmother, tonight at Calumet Park Chapel. It's not where the cemetery is at, like 73rd and Taft. I think you got to go a few blocks south, and then that is where the funeral chapel is. So, I'm going to be off Thursday, and I'm probably going to be off Friday as I got a lot of family in. And part of it is that when me and my brother Brian and my brother Jeff get together, I just don't like to schedule stuff the next morning. They're not very well behaved, and I would like to blame my bad habits on them. So, you may not. I won't be here tomorrow. Maybe not Friday. We'll see. There you go. That's weather brought to you by our good friends at Laborers Local 41, of which I am certainly a proud alum of that fine union. All right, I got a bunch of stuff here to talk about, and I want to hit it in the final hour. I want to say it's just me in the final hour. I don't have any guests. What's that? Al Hamnick might drop by around 7:30, so we'll get to hit some of that stuff. So I have open phone lines. We've got the YouTube shooting. We have the Martin Luther King anniversary. Jimmy Mulaney is flashing those photos of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at times throughout the morning when he spoke here at a local church. There's a big WJOB mic in front of him. It's really an amazing photo. And he's just flashing it on the screen. Of course, you can watch this on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Facebook. No word yet this morning if the YouTube facilities will be closed because of the shooting yesterday at the YouTube, San Bruno up in the Bay Area. And Mulaney is flashing the Martin Luther King. Gosh, that is it just takes my breath away whenever I see him. He's got kind of a stern face, and he's at a podium, and he's got a bunch of people standing around him, and there's that big WJOB mic right in front of him. And there's some other photos of him. I don't know what church that was, but I want to say that it was over here in what used to be known as East Hammond, and it's traditionally been a African-American stronghold here in Hammond. And I forget what church it was at. Anybody knows what church, if you happen to see these photos, I would love to know what church he was at here in Hammond. All right, let's take some phone calls. 219-845-1100. Tech, how you doing? How you been?
Good morning. I'm sorry to hear about your loss.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, how old was she?
How's what?
How is your?
Oh, how old was
grandmother?
she? She
Yeah.
was 98 years old, believe it or not.
You know, my wife's grandmother will turn 98 in September.
Yeah,
And I would say you live that long. That is a celebration. I know it's a loss, but you have to say that's to live almost a century. You know, I don't know what her health problems were, but you know that's a long time to go. You know, to live. So I'm sorry to hear about that.
Thanks.
Hey,
Yeah, you know, I don't even know how you're supposed to handle that. Are you supposed to celebrate it, or are you supposed to be a little
Yeah.
sad, or probably a little bit of both? But anyways, what's going on?
No, I was going to call yesterday, and I didn't get a chance because really I wanted to let you know I made it.
Remind people.
I made not listening to radio and music for Lent. A very quiet back and forth to work, no records, no vinyl, no YouTube, no Pandora for Lent. It's the first time I think I ever went to fruition of giving something up for Lent.
All right, so let's get some details here. Did you do the rotation where on Sundays it doesn't apply, so you were able to? You did not.
In fact, when my wife would get in the car initially, when she drives, of course, you know, always changes. When she drives, she gets the radio. And she says, you know, just because you're giving that up for Lent doesn't mean I have to give it up. So there was one day where she had the radio on, and then when I was driving, I turned it down. After a while, she didn't balk at it. She didn't balk not having music on or anything. I never said anything. And I was very tempted when I found out the loop was ending to Christian radio, and I was going to listen to the podcast or this simulcast of Steve Dahl. He was simulcast between WLS AM 89 and the Loop. It was that Wednesday or something. I saw it on the news, and I was tempted to turn it on. I was like, oh, I got to listen to it. So I imagine he's got a podcast, but for all intents and purposes, I did not listen to any radio. None.
You know, congratulations I mean, I know you're a big radio guy and you like music. I know you have your vinyls and stuff. And that would be really difficult. I don't know because part of it is you've been doing it so long, you may just turn the radio on and be driving for a while before you even realize that you gave it up for Lent. It's that automatic.
Right. My wife even was shocked. She says, "You're not going to listen to records?" I said, "No, I'm going to give up music." And in some ways, it was very, I would say, peaceful or tranquil. You know, going back and forth. And I waited till now. I don't know. Some people may argue. I waited till 3:00 Good Friday. That was my cutoff point. So I didn't go all the way through Holy Saturday or Midnight Holy Saturday because I didn't know when the cutoff was. So I went all the way through Good Friday, 3:00.
All right, and then what was your when you first came back? Sports radio? Did you put some music on?
No music.
Yeah.
I listen to 87.7. It's tough because the music's louder when you turn the station on, and sometimes it goes in and out because they're all the way on the other side of the dial. Because on Comcast, we have Comcast at home. It's blaring. You turn that channel on, 877 on Comcast. It looked like someone just took the volume knob and turned all the way up and ripped the knob off.
What kind of music is that?
You know what? They are all over the place. 70s, 60s, 80s, some classical. I mean, I wouldn't say Led Zeppelin, but it's probably all the one-hit wonders. I do know on Saturday night when I can, they have Yacht Rock from 6 to 9 p.m., and then at 9 p.m. to midnight they have disco. And I try to listen to Yacht Rock on Saturday evenings. So,
all right. Well, you know what, Tech, I'm putting this out because in 2020 we're going to take our FM station, we're going to make it a music station.
Cool.
And I have been getting a lot of suggestions on this. I had a guy that's bugging me to make it a an acid rock station, but not old acid rock, not like Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and AC/DC, but new kind of hard metal. You know, they call it metal now. They don't call it acid rock. And he said, Jed, you're going to make a ton of money on this. And I don't really want to do that. So at some point, I'm going to put together a little committee, and we're going to decide what the music format is going to be for 104.7 FM. And maybe you can have some input there.
Yeah, I'd love to. You know what? And I think it's just a matter of taste. But see, this is my point on that. You know, it depends on where you're at in your life in terms of what medium you. I mean, if you listen to Sirius XM radio, you can get just about everything. If you listen to Pandora, you're really dialing in, or you know, some of the other. I'm at a loss for a lot of the internet stations or YouTube or whatever. You know, it's going to be a touch and go. But you know, like my dad, I asked him when it first came on. I said, "You listen to 87.7 in the car?" He goes, "Absolutely." I said, "Do you like it?" He goes, "Oh, I love it." Now, my dad is late 70s. You know, he's a different part of his life, and I think people in that, you know, part of their lives, or even my generation, I still like listening to the radio. You know, I do get Pandora. I listen to that. There are some benefits to it. But with the ever-changing of, you know, like this Christian rock radio that took over, you know, the loop, you know, probably a primo dial, you know, in terms of the 97.9, you're right in the middle of it. But I think you're going to have it all over the place. You know, it might be that you have certain parts of the day where you play yacht rock or classic rock or
you've got to
SRT. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily you're going to play acid rock 24/7. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what this guy wants, and there's two people that want that. All right, hey Tech, good hearing from you. I'm gonna move on.
I'll say a prayer for your family, you and your family. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you. And once again, that'll be 4 to 8. These guys want me to read my blog post that I put up last night, so I'll read that before Al Hamnick gets in here and whatever. You get it. Let's go to line 3. What did he? Lemaine? Hey, Lemaine, how you doing?
How do you get Lemaine out of Zube?
Hey, man, I'm asking the guys.
What
sports
kind of help? Good help's hard to find, right?
No, that is, these are my students, okay? So the directions, let me give them directions here. What you guys got to do when you answer the phone, you got to ask them to spell their name, okay? There you go. That'll work. So I like Lumaine better, just so you know.
All right. Well, first and foremost, isn't it obvious what kind of music you should be playing on that FM station?
No, it's not.
With the sellout of the loop, I mean, you got to go classic rock now. That's one less classic rock station on the radio. I mean, I did take honors business management in high school, therefore I have some knowledge of business.
You know what?
I'm not saying I got a good grade, but I did take the class.
I think that there won't be one main format. I have a feeling that we will be taking Gino and we'll be taking Rick Kubik and myself, a Grateful Dead head, and we'll be going into a room and we're going to come out with some sort of mixed format that plays a lot of different stuff. And then there might be specific, you know, Gino's jukebox stuff at certain parts of the day, and then Rick's kind of alternative stuff that he does, and then maybe my Grateful Dead. And then we'll mix them all together and play a lot of different kinds of music. That would be kind of where I think it's headed. I would love to take it and make it classic rock like you're talking about, but I know that if I give it input around here, that it's not going to be that. There's not that many of you and me.
So basically, when you exit this room, a giant cloud of smoke will follow you guys?
You know what? That is put under the category of no comment.
Anyway, my main point of calling today, a little comic relief for the region. So I exit the expressway about a little over half an hour ago. I exit Indianapolis Boulevard south. I had to make a quick stop at a grocery store that is not a sponsor of JOB, but it's right there where they're doing the bridge work. And as I'm passing over, what is that, Pilot, the gas station, the truck stop right there, Pilot? Flying J Pilot?
By
Right before the bus station.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there by the bus.
Yeah, that's Pilot.
I see two NDOT trucks dumping a ridiculous amount of salt on the street, and I just start laughing. We have a blizzard this past year, and I don't see one truck for the hour and a half I'm traveling throughout the region on main roads, state roads. There's no. I'm on Kennedy now. Indianapolis, fine, no slick spots whatsoever. Kennedy, no slick spots so far whatsoever. The amount of salt coming out of the backs of these two salt trucks, I couldn't believe it. But we get 6 to 10 inches in 24 hours, and you need a snowmobile to get around these roads.
Well, part of it really is. I mean, I don't have proof of this. Just I've been out to the Gary facility for the state of Indiana for a big snow. I believe that they don't have enough trucks and enough people here from the state of Indiana to do the state roads. We have a lot of different municipalities that have enough people and they have enough equipment. You know, the Ridge communities, Hammond, EC, all these people have a ton of people they can call on. But the state doesn't have that deep bench, and they don't have that deep bench of equipment as much as many of the municipalities do. And I agree with you, especially you work in Illinois. When you go from Illinois to Indiana during a big snowstorm, it's fairly well accepted that our roads are considerably worse on a regular basis. Do you agree?
No, it's not. It's night and day. Night and day. Being the tightwad I am, I should get my frugalness on. I should go home really quick, grab a nice big shovel and a 5-gallon bucket, pull over the side of the road and shovel some of that salt up for next year.
Why are you such?
Jim, it was just spilling out of the backs, and I'm just sitting there like, I can't believe this. We go over excessive when there's nothing on the ground, but a blizzard, I got to worry about sliding off the road, hitting light poles or other cars, and I can't find a truck within 10 miles.
All right, man. Well, thanks
I'm just grumpy today. I don't know.
You know what? Here's part of it. Zubay's a big baseball guy, played for Schenck over here at Munster, and I'm a big baseball guy too, and it's April 4th today. It should be a little bit warmer, and we should start getting this, stray 65-degree day just to give us a hint of what's to come, and we're not getting it, and I think it's in a lot of the psyche of a lot of the people around here.
Yeah, I think cabin fever's at an all-time high.
You got it, man. Good hearing from you, Lumaine. Talk to you. Hey, we also have Mad Flack on line 2, and we have XM on line 1. XM, how are you?
Pretty good, Jed. How you doing? Good?
It's a beautiful morning.
Let's go back to the Verley top 10.
What are you talking about?
Well, Verley said 10 reasons why she doesn't like Mayor Tom. Is that entertainment? Is that entertainment or what?
It was. I was surprised that nobody called during that tirade by Verley. I would have slowed it down, but nobody was calling, so I just kind of let it go. But she came up with a lot of different reasons why she doesn't like Mayor Tom. And like I said, MX, it surprises me because they're kind of similar in a lot of ways, and they just don't like each other, or at least she doesn't like him. I don't know how he feels about her as much. But anyways, what do you mean by the early top 10?
Well, we'll get to where we're going to get with this because MX has got number 11.
Okay.
Okay. But, Verley went from Easter hugs to the top 10 reasons why she don't like Mayor Tom. And there's a meme of that. But MX, number 11, to help Verley out a little bit, get this thing going. Mayor Tom doesn't give credit to the right people. He gives all the credit to himself. And I'm going to tell you why. These jobs, that high-tech Hammond jobs that are coming, if Trump didn't lower the corporate tax from 38% to 20%, those high-tech data jobs could have been sent overseas. But I'm the kind of guy that'll give Mayor Tom credit. He did capitalize on what Trump did. A lot of those jobs, those tech jobs, got outsourced. Back in 1984, Jed, when Reagan was in, and there was massive layoffs at Inland Steel, Ronald Reagan says, we're going to get into high-tech jobs. Well, he didn't know later on when his 8-year term was up that those high-tech jobs got shipped overseas. Like when you call your insurance company and you got to put the ear to your phone, the phone to your ear. But that's number 11. Mayor Tom should thank Donald Trump for lowering the corporate tax.
Okay, all right, I got your point. All right, thank you. And part of the reason that is at times there's a big expose today about the tech hub that is planned by Tom Dockett's brother Dan Dockett, and evidently the son of Tom Sr. and one of the other Docketts is Lee Ramirez called in earlier and told us about the history. I didn't realize the Docketts had that big of a athletic family. But anyways, Tom was in here yesterday. I was talking to him about this tech hub along Lake Michigan in the old ComEd plant space. And it's a $40 million investment, and we started talking about that. One of the things we talked about yesterday is what is going on with the Munster effort to retrieve money from Sopko and Pfister, the controversial former leaders of that school system. What happened was that the Attorney General picked it up for the school town of Munster, and they went in front of Marissa McDermott, and she ruled against Attorney General Curtis Hill for whatever legal reasons. And so now Hill is saying that he's going to appeal this decision. And I had a number of people that contacted me about that yesterday because Verley and the Times were being critical of the decisions. One of the things that I learned in buying WJOB is that notice you got to put in a paper, and deadlines and what do you call that, cutoffs in the legal world. They're pretty, you miss a deadline in the legal world, you miss a deadline. So here's one email that was sent in. The whole situation sucks. Anyone who would take advantage of a school system is a bad human being. However, absent fraudulent acts, which were not presented in the case, the payments were not concealed at all. They were presented in full for 17 straight years of the Munster School Board and approved each year. Absent any fraudulent acts, which didn't occur in the case, the statute of limitations applies. So money can be recovered under this ruling, but only as far back as 2012. Now the AG wants to go back to 1999. So as far as I understand it, you cannot go back on statute of limitations, of course, except in murder. They want to change it for rape also, unless there was fraudulent acts presented. I know this much. I've had stuff. We deal with the FCC, and I had them, they wanted to, there was some sort of minor complaint. They wanted to change the statute of limitations. So the FCC said, well, we're not going to give you your license unless you let us extend the statute of limitations. They have complete power over us, and it pisses me off every day that I got to say that. And Mark Zuckerberg and Google walk around. They have none of these regulations and restrictions. But anyways, so the issue is that Munster does not get their $841,000 back. And the issue is Munster approved this stuff for 17 years, and no one said anything. Now it's going to go back. It'll probably go to the Court of Appeals. Quite frankly, do I hope they get their money back? Yes. But I would hope also that we all learn a little something from what Munster did, and they screwed it up. They screwed it up. We screwed it up. I live in Munster. Anyways, I don't want to relitigate that thing. But let's take another call. Let's go to Mad Flack on line 1. Mad Flack, how are you?
Oh God, that'll be the term fraudulent conveyance that Mr. Curtis will use to get the money back.
Well, I don't know as if they. I think what they do is they have to prove some fraud to open up the statute of limitations, and it's hard to prove fraud because they're not being charged criminally, right?
I don't think they have to be charged criminally. They can actually be charged civilly to be found guilty of fraudulent conveyance. But if you don't think that those folks who are pushing the paperwork through over at the Munster School District didn't know that, oh, this number used to be 55,000, and the guy just came by and said, hey, just do me a favor and add a 1 to that, put that through. You don't think anybody with a remedial level of accounting knowledge knows to say, come again? What? Change 55,000 to 155,000? And you think that's good? You should either be shot or fired or brought up on fraudulent conveyance.
Yeah, but you see,
when you told me this would never, ever go through. Trust me, it's going to go through, and they'll figure it out.
You know what, though, Mad Mac, as much as everybody would like to get that money back from these guys that took stuff that they at least questionably shouldn't have taken, there isn't, as far as I could see, that they've been charged with any crime. Because if they're charged with fraud, if they're saying, well, there was fraud, so let's open up the statute of limitations, then there should have been criminal charges against these guys, and there haven't been. And since there's just no evidence of a crime, otherwise it would have been.
Give it time. Don't worry. The legal wheels many times grind slowly. So, hey, what was with the little racist thing yesterday with your buddy Verley? That was like 20 minutes of her good old days of race oozing from her like every second sentence. Like I had never heard Hamilton described as, it was so good because it was so diverse. And that was so diverse, like what? Like half the people had legs, half didn't? Or what was how does everything that comes out of her head revolve around race?
Well, here's the thing. As always, I appreciate your input on this, but
and don't hang up before I tell you how to figure out your music.
No, listen.
Too, by the way.
But she's here, and we're taking phone calls. You're more than welcome to call her and ask her those questions about race, and I would very much encourage that because I don't have any comment for you. I mean, it's Verley's comments, and that's just what she says, and she has very strong opinions. So any comment you make is like, without her here, I would just appreciate maybe one time you call her and just take her on, and you've taken her on.
I have, yeah. And then I watched. Then someone sends me a text and says, "You got to watch the Facebook video of your call," and she's literally throwing herself on the control board, trying to take that guy off the air button. But anyway,
yeah. I mean, let's just look at the. Verley has some very strong opinions on race and racial relations, and that's fairly
all ingrained with just absolute racist comments, like anybody who's white is evil.
Okay, well, give me an example of what you're talking about.
If you're a white man, you're evil.
Well, give me an example. I mean, you're just making generalizations. What exactly did she say that makes you think that all white men are evil in her mind?
Well, I would go with, she hates McDermott just like she hates Trump. And yet, okay, she just gets done saying, McDermott's done a great thing for Hammond, but I still hate his guts. What? How is that possible? Like anybody, when the city of Gary doesn't do a thing to help their fire or police department, but when they finally get a black person to run for president, we're going to grab every kid in Gary, take them out of school that day, and get them down to vote. Half of them, they were all voting for Hillary,
Okay, let's leave the Gary thing out of here. Let's leave the Gary thing out of here. Hold on a second. Let's talk about this.
You asked me for example.
No, I got you. All right, let's take the first example. That she doesn't like McDermott, and she's very open with that, okay? And she went she went on a rant yesterday about the mayor of Hammond, okay? But she's talking about the mayor of Hammond in a political sense. He's a white guy. She's a black woman. Why is it automatically that she hates all white guys because she doesn't like McDermott?
Well, she doesn't like anything that comes out of his mouth. She doesn't like anything that comes out of Trump's mouth. If you're a white guy, I mean, she just can't. She's not for you. She can't stand you.
Well, that's like saying that if there's a black guy that you don't like, that you're a big racist. You know what I mean? And you got to be careful on saying, well, this person's white and that one's black, and he doesn't like the black guy, so he must be a racist. Once you start doing that, then all of a sudden you've kind of painted people into a corner where they can't dislike somebody of the other race, and that's very constricting.
Well, that's what your lovely Democratic Party on all levels have done. That's what they do.
Yeah, but you're taking a specific and making it general, and I don't necessarily get the feeling that Verley dislikes all white men. I don't think it's even remotely accurate. She doesn't like McDermott.
I go almost with all white people in general, but.
All right. Well, I just don't. I mean, you're not giving. I mean, you're giving me good examples of perhaps a somewhat almost just irrational exuberance of her dislike for Hammond Mayor Tom McDermott. At the same time, she's like a big fan of Marissa McDermott, the judge, and I get that. It's kind of hard to understand all of that. But just because someone of one race doesn't like someone of another race doesn't mean they're a racist. And that is, I'll stick to that. All right, guys. Al Hamnick, how are you, man? What's going on? What have you been doing with your life? Turn your mic on, will you? On the front, on the top of it. Somebody going to help them? Oh, these guys want to take a break anyways. I'll be right back.
For a fast and friendly car wash, go to Easy Clean Car Wash. Easy Clean is happy to announce their new location's grand opening at 1637 45th Street in Griffith. Open 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Or stop by one of our 3 other locations in Highland, Cherville, and Lansing. Free vacuuming, carpet shampooer, air freshener, and towel with every wash. And it's fast, easy, convenient, safe, and gentle. Go to myeasyclean.com for more information.
Elections matter, qualifications matter, integrity and honesty matters, and most of all, experience matters. The Honorable Lorenzo Arredondo possesses all of these qualities. Make a wise decision. Vote for Arredondo for clerk on May 8th. Arredondo for clerk. Honest, trustworthy, dependable, and experienced. And there's no substitute for experience.
My name is Lorenzo Arredondo, and I approve this message.
Paid for by the committee to elect Arredondo for clerk.
Jedi's Garden Family Restaurant, located at the corner of Klein and Ridge, is Griffith's locally owned family restaurant with a down-home feel and made-from-scratch favorites you'll love. Open daily from 5 a.m. to midnight. Jedi's features all-day breakfast, lunch, dinner, and night digs. For family-friendly dining with free Wi-Fi, stop in today at Jedi's. With your meal, make sure you try our award-winning lemon rice soup. Mention WJOB to receive 20% off your order at Jedi's.
Ogren Insurance has been serving the area since 1947 and provides insurance for life, home, auto, business, and more. If you're looking for one-on-one service, the best rates, knowledge, and experience, Ogren Insurance is your agency. Our number one goal is to provide you with the coverage you need at the most competitive price. To learn about the insurance solutions and services we offer in Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or see our website, OgrenInsurance.com. Ogren Insurance, 6929 Holman Avenue in Hammond. Accidents happen. Be protected with Ogren Insurance.
Don't forget, tomorrow, Regent Bandstand at 12 noon with Gino.
Gino is great. Gino is just one of those great guys that everybody needs to meet.
This is David Nellens, and you are listening to WJOB AM 1230 and FM 104.7 in Hammond, Indiana.
What are you guys going to do at 7:34 in the Calumet region? I'm Jim Dietlow, host of JED in the region, hanging out with you guys on a Wednesday morning, April 4th of 2018. I won't be here tomorrow. I will be going to my grandma's funeral. She's 98 years old. That'll be 4 to 8 today at Chapel Lawn. I guess no, not Chapel Lawn. Calumet Park Chapel on Taft in Maryville. And all sorts of ne'er-do-wells are coming in. My brother Jeff is on his way right now from Columbus, Ohio. My sister Allison is on her way from Long Island in New York. My daughter Jeannie came in from New York City last night. So they're coming in from all over America. And they're going to do Deedlow coming in from Portland, Oregon. I think the only one who won't be coming in is Craig Deedlow. He went over to Kannapolis. He's got to play He's got to play baseball. But most of the other ones will all be converging on the region. And the Lake County Sheriff's Department has been put on notice in case any of the fistfights break out today at Calumet Park. Hey, let's take a look at what's going on with traffic. 294 around the city's got a bad spot from 95th on up to 55. You have an accident, an earlier accident. Hopefully it's off to the side by now, but you still have some delays going on up to O'Hare. 80 going east and west looks good. Bishop Ford a little bit tight from, say, 111th to 95th. And then it's actually real tight going into Jane Byrne. So tough, Bishop Ford and the Dan Ryan. So no matter if you go Bishop Ford or Skyway, you're still going to hit some bad Jane Byrne from 47th on in. Skyway, Toll Road look good. Borman looks good. Reports of some slippery spots out in Porter County on 94 through the Burns Harbor area. And watch yourself if you go out that way. A little bit more. They don't have as much traffic on the road, and the ice doesn't get cut as much. So you do have some really slick spots, and we have been very fortunate today that there just haven't been more accidents as it is right. And by the way, traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda. Right now here at the Strachan Van Til Studios, it is 27 degrees, and it's only going up to like the mid-30s, and tomorrow it's about 40 degrees and kind of a sideways rain, snow day. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, highs are in the 30s and the lows are in the teens or in the low 20s overnight. So April is not greeting us with open arms right now. And weather brought to you by our good friends at CertifiedElectrician.com. If you need electrical work done, have a union-based electrician do it. Al Hamnick, how you been, man?
I've been tremendous, and like I had said earlier when I walked in, my condolences to you and your family. I lost my mother-in-law about, a little bit more than a couple of months ago, right after Christmas. And, close to 90. And like the one gentleman on the air said, to live 98 years like your grandmother did, that's a rich and full life. So be grateful for that.
A lot of rich and full history there will be related today at Calumet Park Chapel. I'll get out there around 3 today. Dwayne Deedlow, the former mayor, is a deacon in the Catholic Church, and he will preside over the ceremony at 7 p.m. Yeah, it's kind of, it makes you remember things. And one of the things that I got a call earlier in the show in the 5:30 area from a guy by the name of Lee Ramirez. The Ramirezes and the Deedlows are all kind of intertwined on a number of different levels. And Lee is a Gary guy. Front page here is Tom Dockich Jr. has put this big deal together. And he called in and he was telling us about Tom Dockich Sr. and about the Gastoviches and stuff. And it were actually pretty good stories. I love hearing old Gary athletic stories. And then we started talking about it, and I said, I'm starting to understand what you have said in the past, that the rich history of Gary athletics is just not being highlighted or preserved in the way that it should be.
Hopefully that'll change when the new Gary Sports Hall of Fame becomes a reality, which is not that far away. I would say probably a year and a half, maybe at the most. It's long needed. We've talked about this so many times. Besides Indianapolis, Gary has the second richest athletic history of any city in this state, and no Sports Hall of Fame. I might have missed you at the Hammond Sports Hall of Fame.
I did not go.
Oh, you didn't go? Okay.
We were.
But that was a really nice event.
I was in Key West.
Okay, that was a very nice event.
And I felt bad that it's the first one I hadn't been to in many years. and I feel bad about not attending it. But I heard it was really good. John Bobolick was honored, and he's one of my favorite guys over here at Purdue Northwest.
Looks like he could still run a marathon. Great shape. A really nice induction class.
Bobolick, he doesn't get to run as much as he has had trouble with his feet.
Yeah.
And once you get, you don't realize, once your feet hurt, man, everything hurts. Your world is turned upside down. But John Bobolick was kind of the pioneer in long distance running around here on a in a training fashion, and even he's still over here at Purdue Northwest, and he kind of blazed the trail for running marathons around here.
You know, I was looking at the paper today on the Martin Luther King photo, and I kind of drifted back to the years when I was starting out and when you were probably just getting out of college. And the media in Northwest Indiana back there was dynamite. We probably had 4 or 5 radio stations. We had both newspapers were just, large in circulation, covering everything imaginable, even outside the region. That has all changed so sadly. I don't know whether it's interest, the public's interest elsewhere, the advertising dollar. I mentioned to people that Frank Reynolds, one of the greatest newsmen ever at ABC, started at JOB. And they go, Frank who? And that was probably, 50 years ago?
Yeah, Frank Reynolds. I bring that up to people, even media people, younger media people. They don't even know who he is. You know what I mean? And that, I guess that just makes sense. They weren't around. They're not going to look back and see who Harry Reasoner was. But he was right there, right up there, Frank Reynolds. Frank Reynolds announced 8 games in one day at the Hammond Civic Center. Did you know that?
No.
He announced all 8 games. Remember they used to have the sectional, I think it was like a week-long sectional. They'd start on Saturday, and it was a 16-team sectional, and they'd start on Saturday, and they'd play 8 games. So they'd play one every hour and 45 minutes or something like that. And my dad would talk about when he lived right over here about a block or 2 away from where we're at right now, and his dad would drop him off in the morning and then pick him up at like 10 at night, and he would stay for all of the games. And Frank Reynolds announced all the games by himself one day, 8 games. We've got photos of it.
Yeah.
You just don't get that anymore.
He had a great voice, too.
Yeah.
He had a radio voice and later TV voice. It was dynamic. It caught your attention. But just our media condition today, with everybody getting their news off their phone, to me, it's sad. It's just sad.
This is where we disagree. I understand the richness of media history around here. Of course, I worked at JOB in the mid-'80s. I've known Al for a long time. We've known each other. And I understand the history, the Cosmo Couriers, what was Kennedy, the columnist for the Times. You'd read him when
Dave
Kennedy,
Cosmo Courier, Jan Gabriel,
Larry Peterson, all of these long. By the way, I'm hoping to get Pete Marzano next week. He used to be on WJOB from the mid '70s to the late '80s. He was here when I worked here in the mid '80s, and he did a music show late in the morning for like 10 years here, and I should have him pretty soon. But there's a great history of writers also at the Times, and Whitaker. Remember Whitaker?
Lauren
Lauren Tate.
John Whitaker, yep.
John Whitaker was as good as it gets. He and Dave Kennedy kind of blazed the trail in terms of columnists for what Al does. It really does. If you think about it, Al, it was Whitaker, then it was Kennedy, and then it was really you. You're kind of carrying on their torch. Now, Hanlon does a little bit with you, or does it also with you guys. But there's a big tradition there. But here's where we disagree. I have 2 sports broadcasting students for my class right here. They're all going to be coming in. They all have to come into at least one show during the next couple of weeks. And they have more opportunities now than ever existed in terms of broadcasting and writing on the internet and going to websites and Facebook and all that stuff. And it's a really exciting time to be in broadcasting and in journalism. But you just, what do you not see there?
Well, I don't want to stand in the way of progress, because I understand that that's part of life. Just like, living and dying is part of life. What just concerns me is writing today is at an all-time low. I mean, if you read the writing, and I'll say it in both newspapers, it lacks a lot. There are very many instances where there's no feeling, emotion behind the writing. It's just straight reporting. And a lot of editors today are telling their writers, just give me the facts. Don't try to be a Steinbeck. Just give me the facts. Right to the point.
Steinbeck.
So
did you really use Steinbeck?
Who
reads Steinbeck anymore?
Everybody should know who John Steinbeck is.
Yeah, but very few people read about
I know,
mouse and that thing. But anyways,
but
go
my
ahead.
point is, they want everything in a quick hit, capsulized form, and that includes writing. I read a lot of the writing. The Chicago papers are still pretty good, but you're getting away from really your issues stories, your emotional type stories, feature stories. They used to call them years ago. And now everything is, get that news out as fast as you can, whether it's the print or electronic media. And we're losing something there. I mean, I used to go to a game years ago and I'd see WJOB there, WLNR, WWCA, Channel 56. Remember them from St. John?
John Tennant. And I was trying to think of the other guy, John Tennant and Les
Milby.
Les Milby.
I believe he was a Munster guy.
Was he? Les Milby. So I was thinking about that. The
camera crew. And sure, you can't live in that era forever, but you felt like, okay, this is a big event, because look at all the media that's here today. And you guys really about the only, and I'm not saying that because I'm sitting here, but you guys are about the really only radio station locally that I can get on the air when I'm driving throughout Northwest Indiana. I mean, the others that are in South Bend or cover South Bend as well, cover South, the South like Lowell and beyond, Rensselaer area. I can't get them on my radio.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad, because it puts it all in your lap. You're the ones that kind of have to be, in charge of letting us know in the region what's going on. You used to have a newsroom at JOB where you could call in a news tip at 1 in the morning and somebody would answer the phone and take down the information and get it on the air, because they were 24 hours. But then again, changes in ownership, the economy, maybe going to another form of media, like, the internet. Internet has everything on it now. That's what gets us mad at games. I can go up to a Bears game 10 minutes after I leave the locker room to come back to the press box to write my story. It's been on about 45 different internet news sources, ESPN, Comcast Sports Chicago. I mean, the story's right there. All the quotes that I have, all the facts, all the angles, all the photos, they're right there. So I've got to really come up with an interesting story to hold, or an angle to hold people's interest, because they're familiar with what happened already. By the time that paper hits their front porch, they've known about everything that happened in that game for hours. So maybe I'm just sounding like an old timer. I don't know, but I miss those days. I really do. I acknowledge the fact that the technology today is wonderful, but I just think I'm going to speak at a journalism class, at Highland in about a week or so. Thank God they still have journalism in some of the schools. And the teacher there even agreed, the kids today can't write. They don't know how to write, because everything that they communicate with is on their phone, as far as texting, Facebook and that, short sentences, clever words, abbreviations. We don't write anymore. We don't look each other in the eye anymore and communicate.
Al Hamnick, of course, been writing sports, 44 years now?
This is the
49th years, coming up on 50 years of doing sports writing. He certainly is the dean of sports writing in Northwest Indiana and around the state of Indiana. If you want to talk to him, 219-845-1100. Al, you've been doing this a long time. I guess now's the time to ask, what else do you miss?
I don't miss going to the office. I mean, being semi-retired, being able to write from your house and just get your assignments that way. I don't miss going to the office because a lot of the kids, for one thing, most of the writers that I came along with have been laid off or have died or have retired. When I was at the Gary Post-Tribune, we had, at that time, late 70s, I thought was the best staff in the state other than Indianapolis. And of the 7 people that were in our staff back in the late 70s, 5 of them are dead.
Who are they?
Well, there was Richard Gray.
Okay.
Neil Boyer.
Hold on a second. Let me write these down. Richard Gray, Neil Boyer. I remember both of those guys, yeah.
Mark Bratton.
I don't remember Mark.
Young kid.
Yeah.
And these were people who died from cancer, mostly. David Bartman.
What about Ron Brow? Where was he?
He was at the Times.
He was at the Times? I thought he worked at the Post at some point, too.
No.
He was always at the Times?
Yeah. When he left, when I left the Times the first time because of the strike, when we were on Fayette, he took my place. He came in off the street. We became real good friends, even though, he had crossed the picket line. And there were a couple more people that were photographers, sports photographers that passed away. And that rocks you. I mean, that rocks your world. And these people were much younger than me. But for one reason or the other, God said, your time is up. And
Al, I played on a basketball team, like a rec team over here at the Y. And on that team was Mike Farkas, Ron Brow, and another writer. And I thought he was with the Post, but maybe it was with the Times. I can't remember his name. And I loved hanging around those guys, man. Brow had a lot of good stories. Sure. And he left here after a while, right? He went and wrote somewhere else. But when he was here, he was like you. He was kind of one of the main guys that everybody looked up to.
Yeah, he covered exclusively preps for the most part.
Yeah.
And then he went back to the Chicago Heights Star and another paper in Chicago area, like something our size, maybe a little smaller. Never went really into the loop and worked for the big station or the big newspapers. But we got to be real close friends. I have not seen him for years. I mean, maybe I'm way off base. Maybe your listeners today think, hey, I like it the way it is. I want to get my news by just pushing a button.
Al, I am in that camp. I love the tradition. At nighttime, I might read an old Ring Lardner stories. I read You Know Me, Al, recently. Remember the story where the guy's he's in the major leagues, but he's kind of clueless, and he writes a series of letters to Al, his buddy Al. It's called You Know Me, Al. It's great stuff. Ring Lardner got it, and he wrote a whole bunch of. There's a book out that is Ring Lardner's columns, sports columns for the Chicago Daily Sun, I think it was. And all of that stuff is just great from a historical perspective. But all of these advances now that these kids here are able to use and that we're able to do to get all the streaming video out here is really an exciting time. Outside of the loss of strictly journalistic methods, you have just so much going on. And I can't be more excited about it than what is here. What I'm doing now in sports broadcast, I'm trying to give them fundamentals and say, hey, you still have to have these fundamentals of a story, who, what, where, why, when, how. Here's how your lead needs to be. Here's what the structure, they need some structure, so forth. But, Al, the sports coverage, man, it's in everybody's life everywhere. And that's a sports person's dream. You don't have to wait for the paper the next day.
I know. We're all we all live very hectic lives. Our days are full before, we even touch the ground with our feet in the morning. When we get out of bed, we already have plans for the whole day. So we want that information now. And I understand that. You can't wait till 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock when the papers were PMs. And you can't wait for, 8 or 9 in the morning or when you get back from work to find out what happened the day before. I really understand that. I guess if we were just still back in the 50s and we were doing it, like we're doing it now today, it would even make sense because people are in a hurry to be informed. So that kind of makes us dinosaurs. That's why so many newspapers are in trouble. I've had, editors tell me that's where your paper's going to be in the future, right on the phone, your entire newspaper, obituaries, everything. And that's kind of sad also because I'm used to the old way. But
yeah,
I have to
Al
move
and I have
aside
had
for
this.
progress.
We've had this discussion, and it's playing out right now. I'm a huge believer in the future of journalism and the broadcasting, and we've obviously invested in it, and it's allowed us to continue on here. At the same time, there are a whole bunch of fundamentals, and there's a lot of history that is lost, and people don't pay that much attention to it. And I've bugged Al for a long time. Just sit down and write the book, Al. There's a lot.
Everybody has written a book.
Yeah. Oh, God.
There are
what
so
a,
many
what a
sports books
cop
out
out
there.
that is. Let's
No,
talk to
there are
Vinny.
so many
That is
sports
such a
book
big
out there.
cop out. All right, let's go to Vinny. Vinny, how you doing, man?
We're talking about, journalism, can't wait till the paper came out. When I was a paper boy on the east side, my dad couldn't wait until I got in the paper, so he could catch up on all the news and, especially with sports and everything. My question is to you, Jim. I know you have like a young students in sports media. Will you and Al ever do anything to collaborate with NHL hockey? Like, would you guys do anything with Hockey Beat in the future with your young media students?
All right, let me take it first, Al. First, we have the MMA show with Miguel Flores, okay? We have the NCAA show with Ryan Walsh, also Sam Michael. He's 24, 25. He does a show here. We have a lot of young people. I got these new guys here that who knows what they're going to be doing. I got a bunch of sports broadcasting people that want to get in. Very few of them. As a matter of fact, I've never had anybody approach me about doing a hockey show. And I don't know why that is. I've had every sport you could think of. Someone wants to do a tennis show. There's bowling shows we've had in the past, golf shows. We've had, of course, basketball, football, baseball shows, but never a hockey show. Why do you think that is, Al?
I don't think the interest is there. I mean, people watch and follow the Blackhawks, but now that the Blackhawks were eliminated basically from the playoffs so early, you don't hear anybody talk about them anymore on radio. In the Chicago papers, there are no follow-up stories. What has to be done? Is Quenneville back? Hockey is kind of a geographical sport. I mean, up north, out west, maybe it's really popular, but around here, when you look at the Bears, the Cubs, the White Sox, I think the Blackhawks are probably maybe the fourth most interesting team or most followed team in Chicago. So to have a hockey program or any kind of hockey entertainment at your station, I don't think would make it. Now, youth hockey is struggling a little bit in the area, and the IHSA refuses to make it, an IHSA sport. So you have club hockey, which does okay. There's 3 or 4 communities around here that have hockey, and that's it. I just don't think the interest is there, and I don't think it'll ever be here. In Chicago, it's a little bit more popular because you've got some nice rinks. You've got the Blackhawks, which do a lot with communities regarding, the sport. We had the one rink in Cherville, was it?
Yeah, and the St. John Ice Arena is still there. It's now Midwest.
But you barely hear about what's going on there or any teams or leagues coming in.
Vinny, what do you think about that?
Well, here's the thing, Jim. We talked about this the other day with the Hammond Ice Rink coming in. That's the reason why I brought up that, the comment about NHL, that maybe, somebody can reach out like we talked on Monday. And also maybe, I'm a big Penguin fan. Maybe we can get one of the, one of the players, from the Penguins, maybe get involved, team up with the Hawks, Penguins, and, maybe like other NHL players to come on out, and, have youth hockey and get involved. And like you said, with IHSA, with hockey, you got, like a lot of high schools. Why is IHSA, not part of that? Why don't they recognize, these, the local high schools, as a sport?
Vinny, I'll tell you this much. I think personally bowling in the area is a heck of a lot more popular than hockey. And the IHSA won't even authorize or recognize bowling as a school sport because of various reasons. So I think you'd have a better chance, if they had a bowling show on JOB, or they collaborate with some community to push bowling as a sport, maybe youth bowling. I mean, I can go by Plaza Lanes any time of the year, and the parking lot is full, whether it's league season or not. I just don't think the interest is there for hockey. God bless you for being such a great fan. But I just don't think the interest is there year-round to put that kind of investment in.
All right. Hey, Vinny, thanks a lot, buddy. Let's take Dennis on line 2, final call. What's going on, Dennis?
Man, I don't think any of the high schools on their own couldn't support a hockey team, or at least not enough of them. The ones we have around here are collections of 2, 3, 4 kids from one school and 2, 3, 4 kids from another school, and it just costs so much money, and it's so hard to get enough bodies together to field a program that I don't think the IHSA is going to validate or certify hockey or include hockey in its programs anytime soon. But I called about Denzel Valentine. Al, you wrote about a nice complimentary article about him this morning, and same time the Bulls are putting him on IR with the knee injury he suffered. So that's unfortunate because he is going into his contract off season, I think, right? I think that's what you were writing, and
Yeah.
not ever good to be injured going into that situation.
Then it's 1 hour before I sent the story in. I had like a 4 o'clock deadline. Matt Yob at the Times, at the Bulls, sent out the release about him being put on the shelf, being shut down for the rest of the year. So I had to go back within an hour, rewrite the whole frickin' column because I had a different angle. I like him. I had doubts his first year and a half, but I just see potential there, especially off the bench. And he thinks he's a starter. He's got that much confidence. So I'm hoping you won't even recognize this team next year. There's a good chance Zach LaVine could even get traded if he wants a max contract, because I don't think they're going to pay that kind of money. As good as he is, and he will be an all-star, for many years to come, I don't think they're going to pay that kind of money. But again, you never know. Let me ask you what Jim was saying about writing a book. Would you buy another sports book when you walk into these places and you see shelves full of sports books? Everybody telling their story or, whatever. Would that interest you at all?
Well, I'm not much of I'm a freak over sports like you guys are, but I'm not much of a sports book writer. I like the quick hit stuff, so I like reading the newspaper and I like reading the articles on the internet. But I'm not one to sit down with a book about a sports-related thing.
See, Jim, there go the sales right in the toilet.
All right, thanks, Dennis. He's Al Hammock. He's never going to write the book about region sports history.
But Dave Kuziak is. He's got a lot on his chest.
Dave Kuziak's got plenty on his mind. Al, thanks for coming in, my friend. You can read Al Hamnick at NWI.com. Just type in Hamnick, Hamnik. His email is there also if you have any comments for any of the stuff that he talked about, especially if you have any feelings about some of the history around here of sports here in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Deedlow, and I got a couple updates before I get out of here. One of those is that our own Ron Harlow has undergone about an 11-hour surgery yesterday, and we are very hopeful on results that are coming forward for Harlow. Harlow came out in the evening time around 6 o'clock. I think he went in there around 7. So he came out around 6 or so, and he was when they woke him up, first thing he was saying to the nurses there is that, hey, did you know that it was my 8th anniversary of being on WJOB? So Harlow's still thinking about you guys and thinking about radio. But he's going to be off for a little while, okay? He has a health issue, and he had surgery on, and we're just waiting for results and how the surgery went, and then results of the things that were found in his head. And once we get those, he's been pretty open about it. But we were all just kind of on pins and needles here yesterday, and we're glad he came out of it, and we're glad he had to say that to the nurses. And the other thing is that, of course, you guys know that my 98-year-old grandmother passed away, and I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I may not be here Friday either. I got all sorts of people coming into town, but the service will be today from 4 to 8 at Calumet Park in Maryville at the Chapel on Taft. And then Dwayne Deedlow Jr., the former mayor of Hammond, will preside over a ceremony, which I'll be part of also. I'll do one of the readings. So Dwayne and I kind of doing it. And we will be doing that at 7 p.m. And if you guys want to know more about this, I did write a rather lengthy blog post this late last night. And you could want to follow it. All you got to do is go to jimdeedlow.com, and I just kind of talk about it. And there it is. There's a lot of history, a lot of family history there. And if you want to read it, you can.
A lot of people coming in, huh?
Yeah, I would, yeah. My sister Allison's coming in.
I haven't seen her in some years. I'm going to stop by, obviously.
And
Lisa and I will stop by.
Kuziak was more or less, him and his brother Butchie were kind of parts of the family when we were growing up. And
the first two people that we met when we moved to Munster. A lot of people don't know that. My brother and I walked to the Eads schoolyard, and Brian and Jeff were throwing a football around. I think I remember them having those little shirts that both said Deedlow on the back of them. Next thing you know, hey, you guys want to play catch? Yeah, we started playing, and then I think that might have even been before the school year started, because then Butch and Jeff were in the same grade, and Brian was 2 years older, so I was younger. And then, obviously come to know that my dad knew your Uncle Charlie real well, and the family, being close right there in Hammond and Roxana, what do they call it, Frogsville area?
Frogsville, and yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of years went by. It's a lot of intertwining there. So, remember the days with the twins. I even remember hanging out with Keith and Kevin years ago. That's all 35 years.
Yeah,
35
Keith and
years
Kevin
ago.
Brown. I don't know how I messed up and called them Keith and Kevin Smith, but Keith and Kevin Brown were a couple characters. I mean, there's a lot of characters going to be there today.
I used to hang out with Darren when they were on Glendale.
That's Daryl, and that's another set of twins.
Back when Daryl and Mary were dating. I mean, that's how long ago that was. So that's 35 years ago.
Daryl and Darren are Deedlows. They're my first cousins, and
Dana and I still work together. So
really, I forgot.
I was the one that introduced her to Jim. So some people really appreciate that, and some don't. They remind me of that.
Why did you have to bring that up?
They're good friends. They hang out now.
Yeah, but there's
sometimes you're not meant to be together.
Some the brothers aren't huge Jim fans, and
Listen,
that. You know what I mean?
We don't have enough time to go through who is fighting, who's not fighting, who's getting along, who's got a spat. That stuff's happened over the last 40 years, and it will continue to go like life. And when people are passionate about how they feel, and I think that I heard you tell a little story about competition and how you feel. Let's face it, neither family's real good at saying I lost or I'm sorry or this or that. That's not, sometimes you can wait a long time to hear some of those words.
It used to be that it wasn't a good wedding without a fist fight. You know what I mean? Just one fist fight to kind of.
I remember going to a couple parties when it was the rec side, and I was like, wow, that's
the Rex is getting going. That's right. There's going to be a bunch of Rexes there tonight. Oh my God, what's going to happen? But thanks. A lot of you folks have sent condolences on the Facebook feed of where I just go to my Facebook page, Jim Deedlow's Facebook page, and you'll find the blog there.
I think I went with Brian to your grandmother's house when she was Einer still living?
Einer Matson.
I think that was. I remember going over there one time. And could that be mathematically correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she got married when she was 70, and he was in his mid to late 70s, and they were together for a long time. They got married.
Didn't he own Freddy's or something? Wasn't that like that?
His son owned Freddy's. And Einer had this grocery store over here at the corner of 173rd and Kennedy. I think it's a video store now, right next to that Mexican store.
Yeah. I remember hanging out with Brian and Michelle the summer that you hijacked Brian, too. We were hanging out that entire summer, and he went to California.
Yeah,
some say that was a defining moment of his life.
I didn't have a lot of good habits, and my little brother was hanging around. He was 16 years old. I promised my mom I would take care of him, and I'd watch over him.
Oh, boy.
And he basically just had free reign to go wherever he wanted it. And I lived right by the train station, and Bill Howarth was out there visiting me, and oh my God!
I worked for Dwayne when it was Leviathan. Your brothers both lived at my grandmother's upstairs in the apartment for multiple times and years, I think, here and there. Whenever Jeff would come in for the summer or something, or they were working during that time from when it went to Dilo the Leviathan and all that stuff like that. It'd be what, 83, 84, 85, somewhere around that.
Late 80s, I think. Yeah. Kuziak's dad and uncle they played youth football with my Uncle Charlie Podkol, that Carl Brown, and he.
My dad and Danny got along real well too.
Yeah, and so I mean, there's a lot of Kuziak's dad died at the age of 50, and he's been gone for quite some time. But there's been some major interactions over the years. But Kuziak's dad was, if you think Dave's very forthright and very open and direct, Kuziak's dad had him beat. I'll give you that.
Not even close. It's not even a
close. Let me tell you that. And I was one time we had a.
If you didn't want to know, don't ask him. Because if you asked him, he was going to tell you what. There were no filters.
Tony he was named. I remember one time we had a party in the basement, and your dad showed up, and there was a guy, and Tony was a union guy, and steelworker guy and stuff. Staunch union guy, and then there was another guy. I know who it was. It was Jack Schweer.
That conversation probably didn't go very well.
Oh, my God. And then my dad had to get in the middle of them, and they're pointing each other faces. Jack Schweer was in the management at U.S. Steel, and your dad was in the union over here at Inland Steel. And
he was in the muscle end of things.
Yeah, they just got into it, and they were letting F-bombs go, and there were little kids around, and then one would walk away, and then the other one would come back, and they couldn't stop, man. They just kept going for hours, man. And my dad finally, had to sit them down. I'm like, hey, you guys need to stop this. This is a party, and, you can't talk to each other like that. Yeah, we can, because he's a blank. Oh, anyways. Kuz, I'm out of here, man. I got to go.
I'm going solo today. Matt is taking care of some business, so I think I can make it till 9 o'clock, Jimmy, with a couple topics that we'll go over.
Hey, look at Sam Michael in the sport coat. He looks so uncomfortable that every time he puts that sport coat on.
Hey, I got to say, I was listening on Tuesday, and I don't think that I've heard someone attack someone as tough as Verley attacked Mayor McDermott in a long time on these airways. I mean, just personally saying, here's why I dislike someone. And again, she's a big girl and Tom's a big man. And I just say, I can't remember someone on these airwaves just personally attacking someone. And I think it'll be very interesting what happens on Friday.
Yeah.
So the mayor has to make a determining factor if he is going to continue the battle or if he's going to take the high road. And we all know from knowing Tom for a long time that he's going to do what he wants to do in this situation, but it should be very interesting radio if he determines that he wants to go back and forth on Friday morning. You should sell some special ads on that particular. I know before and after that time slot.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that because
we've been here both long enough where we've been through all that stuff, and my perspective as I've gotten older is, that's fine. Look, you know me. We could argue if you want to. We can get along if you want to. It doesn't matter the older you get. And tonight we're going to, to celebrate someone's life. You start getting older, and I've just determined that I try to get in less and less of those battles because I don't know. Just you get perspective the older you get. But we've been through so many of these here that this ranks in my book as the top three or four that I've heard of a personal going right back at each other.
God, what are some of the other ones? God, there's been some really.
Well, I think the fact that
Bunsett used to rip on Dominguez deeply.
Well, the fact that our good friend Bernie Zeman, when he first came in and was there, we almost went to fisticuffs. Has to be top. I mean, when you leave air and someone comes on and that wasn't that anyone was wrong. That was just people, there was a lot of emotion when you're talking about people were losing their life, their homes and everything. And it was a different time. You can get on the air now and there's a lot of communication. You got to remember when that big event happened, no one knew what was going on. I think we've learned a lot as a region how to deal with, major events, but we did not at that time. There was nowhere. People were like, what's going on here? We're flooding. We don't know what's up. What's the next thing to do?
That was the biggest one. And
Yeah.
then, just so everybody, if you don't know that piece of history, Bernie Zeman and I got into it on. We weren't even really on the air, but we were out in the newsroom. But we were going to come to fisticuffs, and Chief Timmer had to, bring
Then
it
George and I had a little battle.
Yeah, and then
he tried to get me off the air. I saw him last couple times. I've said hello to him. The way I look at it, life's too short.
Yeah,
if someone doesn't like me, I'm okay with that. I'll say hello to everyone. I hold no malice. I'm on the back nine, kid. I'm not wasting any time on that stuff. We've had conversations, but at the heat of the moment, I mean, how many times have people called to say they want me off the air to you? And here's the thing.
Oh, you know what? As a matter of fact, it doesn't. For a long time, I would get one call a week about Kuziak. I get a couple calls a week now about Verley and some texts and stuff like that. I even get calls about having McDermott on and stuff a lot. That is to be expected. What is not to be expected, right up here in the top 5, Kuz, was when you got kicked out while we were doing the game.
Yeah, but I know you were sensationalizing that because there was a couple things that you left out that were very important. First of all, it was a tape delay game, so it was not live. Okay, number one. So we weren't even at the scores table. We were off to the side. And if you remember, it was just a little thing that we were recording, and then we just sent it back over here. Number two, there was only 2 people in that crowd that were using cuss words, and that were not me. It was Jennings' brother, who was the official scorekeeper of Whiting, and it was the coach of Whiting's dad, who was in front of me. That's a nutbag. And they were screaming and yelling. And listen, I knew that I was in Mayberry. So I didn't cut. And Lob came over and talked to me. He's like, hey, just everyone cool down. And it was going to be okay. And then he walked, Martinez, who was a superintendent, pulled him. And I looked over at Ryan. I go, I know I was getting tossed at that point. And Lob came back, and she kind of went like, I saw her. She goes like this, throw him out. And when you're in Mayberry, what are you going to do? It was funny, though. That night, we had a party set up at Tommy Matea's place. And everyone was coming back there. And I ended up talking with a bunch of the parents. Actually, Mr. Baida, who just passed away, Elliot Baida's father, we sat there and talked. And then the coach was going to come in. And he's like, oh, Dave. I said, come on in. I'll buy you a drink. It's no big deal. Heat of the moment. You know that.
Well,
but it is a great story. It is a great story, though. I mean, how many people can you say? But that doesn't happen if we're not in Whiting. It's just that way. And they protected, of course, because we were visitors. That'd be like anything. You're going to protect the people that you know. But I didn't use any profanity. And I don't want to look back because the thing about what you were talking about with Al, here's a problem we have in the region. I think it's great to look backwards. I think it's great to have a Hall of Fame. But we should spend 10% of our time looking backwards and 90% of our time looking at getting a new data center, getting all the ancillary business, redoing this corridor. That's the problem we have in this region. We're constantly looking backwards, and as you said, those days are long gone. They're never coming back. So what do we do to make sure that today into the next generation is going to be prosperous for our kids and our grandkids? Your oldest daughter's gone. She's probably not coming back.
Don't say that,
I'm just saying.
Will you? Just stop.
Well, just what opportunity? Look where she's at. Is there more opportunity where she's at, or is there more opportunity here?
I don't know. Kuziak will have to answer that. I got to talk to my sports broadcasting guys here. Kuziak's up. He buys his team a time. I stepped on his toes.
I'll see you tonight. I'll probably get over there about 5 o'clock. So it's a life well lived. Dig and redig.
Dig and redig. I'll see you. Bye.
Local 41, together with Indiana.